corn in Lafayette and New Orleans, Bourbon Street.
Yeah, they had like between 6 and 10 inches.
That's
that
pretty awesome.
Mr. John, I'm glad you're here. Go ahead and tell these fine ladies and gentlemen who you are and why we got you on.
I'm John Hanks, and I'm the Large Carnivore Program Manager for the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. And our main large carnivore is the black bear.
Yeah.
So here I am to talk about the black bear and the first bear hunting season since we've had in 1987, I believe was the last one. It's the last pamphlet I can find regulation for a black bear season. It was a week long, I think in November.
Oh, Teddy, he'd be proud of you, wouldn't he?
Well, I would hope so. You know, Teddy Roosevelt killed a bear in 1907 with Madison Parish. And there were actually 2 bears killed right on the property or near the property where he camped. We don't know exactly where he killed the bear, but very near there. So
nice. So the large carnivore, if that's above anybody's head like it can be above mine sometime, the black bears in Louisiana, the reason that we got a season is because of this man and your pals and the studies y'all are doing and all the work you're doing. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's what we got you for. I know me and Richard were both fired up about it. We even got we got a few little relics here. Got a grizzly claw, which we ain't talking about, but we got a black bear claw, and got a color phase. Is that what?
Yeah, our black bears here are black or blackish brown, so they're black. We don't have the blonde and the cinnamons and things like that. We do have bears with chest blazes, and what you said about. Because of me, it's many people, not just with our agency that spent their career doing it, but also the outdoor enthusiasts and sportsmen and women of the state and just private landowners and in and outside the state and around the country and that have, put their heart and soul into this for, the bear was listed in 1992 while I was in high school.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah. Well,
now Ben Lilly, there's books and all and coming from where we came from, our background in work, in Marouge, that was I know he's not from there, but you hear stories about Ben Lilly. Now was he with Teddy Roosevelt? He
was. There's a statue of him and his dogs at the Marouge post office in front of it.
I did not know.
Yeah, and so Ben Lilly was there. I know on the second hunt, the first hunt was in Onward, Mississippi, I believe in 1902. You might want to fact check that. But Holt Collier, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He has a biography. It's only about that thick. If you're not a big reader, you need to read it.
No, Mr. Collier may, and I may be wrong, but I may have that book.
You may have that book. Yeah. If you don't get it,
was it one with Mr. Collier had it? Maybe a story about him and his dog and got the building in the background on the.
Well, Mr. Collier was he was a former slave, black man that Teddy Roosevelt said was the greatest hunter that he'd ever been around, and he supposedly killed over 3,000 bears. He's the one that caught the bear, tied it to the tree. Holt Collier had these dogs. He loved them like you would love your children. And you'll have to go back and read the story. The bear got after the dogs and either maimed or maybe even killed one. You have to go back and see. And he subdued the bear with a club. And it wasn't a great big bear, but it wasn't a little bear either. And he tied it to the tree, and Roosevelt had been hunting for a while. And he went and got Roosevelt and said, here's the bear tied to the tree. Let me untie it so it'll at least be sporting. And Roosevelt said, hey, I'm not doing this. And that turned into a political satire, probably in the New York Post or something like that. And then a candy store owner, he made the first teddy bear, the stuffed animal, and that's where it came from. And that was in 1902 in Onward, Mississippi, which is just miles from the Louisiana border.
It had zero to do with him killing one. It had everything to do with him letting one go.
Everything, but exactly. And he came back in 1907. He rode the train down. If you go to East Carroll Parish, there's a historic marker on the train track on Highway 65 there, where at Roosevelt, where they got off. I think McElhaney was with him and several others. You can go back and read the story. And they hunted, and he ended up killing a bear in 1907 in Madison Parish.
Okay. How about that?
Good little history lesson.
It
right
was.
And Holt was on both of them, and I know Ben Lilly was on the second one, and he may have been on the first one. read the book and let's find out.
Yeah,
you know?
It sounds like it won't take very long.
No, it's not. You can look it up on the internet, and it's
Yeah.
a 10-minute read. You can get the story, but read Holt Collier's biography and read Ben Lilly's biography. They were totally different type people, but both great hunters.
Yeah.
Well, everybody listening to this right now is like, come on, guys, stop with the history. We can look that up. We got some questions we want answered. But first, back to this, Drake Wilmore. You know Drake. We've all known him forever. Great friend of mine. He killed this, I think, when he was 13. And he's pushing 30 now if he ain't already there. So anyhow, Drake, thank you for letting us borrow this. I really appreciate it. But yeah, we want to talk about just some of the statistics and some of the different things that came from the black bear season, the first, at least in our lifetime, black bear season here in Louisiana. You don't date that far back to the 1907, so this is the first one. Everybody,
it. No.
Well, we had one in '87, so
that's right, 87.
And
Yeah.
I don't know when Richard was born, but
He was way under before 87.
Do you remember the one in '87? That the week?
no, it was a very small, short season and limited to probably just one parish.
Yeah.
But I was 12.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
Look, before we get started,
yeah.
there's a stat that you just pulled up a while ago when you showed me. It was sort of eye-opening. Now, right here where we live, the black bear, and not for a little while, but for a while, has been a hot topic. It's a sore spot one way or the other. And Louisiana has just so many bears. Explain where we rank with that.
So there's 39 or 40 states out of the 50 that have black bear, and we're in the bottom 10, probably the bottom 6 or 7. We have about 1,500 in the entire state, and that's an estimate. Could it be 1,655? It could. It could be 1,308. It's about 1,500. We have a pretty good handle on our populations that we've been monitoring for years, and our densest places like Tensas and Madison. That's our densest population, and it probably rivals anywhere else in the southeast, including like Gatlinburg, but we don't have that statewide.
Yeah.
And so if you think, hey, we got a lot of bears, well, go to Maine where there's probably 35,000, or North Carolina where there's probably 20,000 plus, or Alaska where there's 100,000. Now I realize Alaska's 1/3 of the continental United States size,
Yeah.
but it's there's a lot of places that have bears and have way more than us. And those people deal with and live with bears every day. And while they were nearly extirpated from here, we've always had some. They were put on the on the endangered species list as threatened in 1992. I was in high school. There was a lot of people that did a tremendous amount of work. Maria Davidson was our large carnivore program manager before me, and she spent her career getting them off of that list. I mean, just a tremendous amount of work. You see me here, and I get credit, and people, it's because of her and people that worked with her and landowners that worked with her. Mm-hmm. And I'm still working with those same landowners, and she's with SCI now. And I'm still working with her. And, you see me, but there was so much before me. I'm just the tip of the iceberg. And really, I'm the face you see, but all the work was done by somebody else.
Yeah.
That's how it always is with just about everything, though.
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of credit that I shouldn't. Here I am, but
you're pretty diligent at what you do too.
And I appreciate that, but there's a lot of people like that, and there's been so many people in other states that have helped us with where we are and what they have done in the past, and what they would have done differently, or absolutely don't do this, and so that helps you and it speeds things along.
So I want to know how do you go and help keep, or how do you keep tab on the bear population? Like you go and you talk to a guy, and I'm just making something up. You talk to a cat in Morehouse Parish that's hunting up in Beekman. Every deer feeder that's filled with corn that they have, it gets tore up. You can't put it up without it getting tore up by bears, and they think that there's thousands of them up there. So to kind of go and push that back, not saying that some stuff still isn't happening, but it's going to happen no matter what. We're not hammering on the bear for that necessarily for this. But I'm just saying people think that there's way more than 1,500. How are you going? You keeping tabs on that?
Let me just start by giving a little bit about bears. Bears can have huge home ranges. So the upper end of a male's home range is 125 square miles. That's 80,000 acres. That's as big as the entire Tensas River Refuge. Now, that's the upper end. Yeah. I'm not saying they all have that, or even any of them here have that, because if they've got good habitat and what they need, they're not going to go that far. bears breed in the summer. Male bears will walk 20 miles a day during the breeding season looking for a girlfriend. But what would you do when you were 16 years old? Would you walk down the street to see a girl you liked? You know, I know Richard would have.
Oh yeah, you're going to travel.
You're going to
Yeah.
travel. So you know, you know, the bear he has roams, and we've had him go from Lafayette to Monroe, you know, in like a 10-day period.
Oh, my
So they can really travel if they want to. So while there are bears there, a lot of people are encountering the same bears over and over, or you're seeing 2 bears and I'm seeing 3 bears and Richard's seeing 4, but 2 of them are the same bears for all of us.
Gotcha.
And my number one nuisance problem is bears just tearing up deer feeders because they're feeding deer. Well, you're feeding everything in the woods,
Right.
You know, mice, squirrels, raccoons, what have you, including bears. And bears just big enough and strong enough to turn it over. But, you know, a hog will turn over and destroy a bear
Turn
feeder.
it over too. That's right.
So, you know, if you want to bait for deer and you don't want bears, get rid of the feeder and put a little bit in a bucket and feed it like you're feeding chickens out through your food plot or down your shooting lane. Bears are lazy. They do not like to hunt and peck. They want to lay somewhere, and I've seen bears where they prey guard, you know, a 400-pound feeder of corn just like they would an elk or something, you know, out west. And they lay there and they eat and they eat and they sleep there because they don't want anything to get it. And they'll lay there and eat, and then they'll roll over and get sick because they've eaten too much, and then they go right back to eating.
Oh,
And
my
sometimes they
word.
get in the barrel and go to sleep, and you come back and fill it up. Well, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's staying.
Yeah, he's got him something, and
Yeah.
he's not leaving.
Yeah. So how are y'all going out and counting the bears, and what does that procedure look like? 'Cause that sounds pretty fun.
It, it can be, but it can be. It's a lot of work. So what we do here in Louisiana is we don't have any harvest data to do like a population reconstruction or something like we do with our deer and our DMAP. We have a lot of data from hunter harvest and WMA harvest. We don't have that with the bear, and even though we are hunting them now, it will take years to get numbers, years and years to get those kind of numbers. We may never have it that way. So what we do, and they started doing this back while the bear was listed to recover the bear, and we call it hair snare. And essentially what it is a 2-strand barbed wire fence about the square footage of a full-size pickup truck. And the bottom strand hits you just below the knee, and the top strand hits you about mid-thigh, about where your hip boot would stop, depending on how tall you are. And so we have those built, and they're at randomly spaced over the landscape. We have these cluster sampling that are spatially explicit now that we've added. They used to be like Tensas was just gridded up, and every square mile essentially had one in it, and as close to center as you could get it. Well, now we have these ones that we've expanded out into, you know, other parishes or neighboring parishes or neighboring WMAs or wherever, because we know the bears, you know, are out there, and we're trying to pick that up. So we have that barbed wire fence. That's one hair snare. Your average hair snare project probably has anywhere from 150 to 250 snares, so barbed wire fences. And it's like I said, it's about the square footage of a full-size pickup truck. You go in there and you hang a biodegradable doggy bag, you know, like you'd pick up your dog into park. You got one of those foo-foo dogs.
Oh.
You know.
Well, doggy bag, that's what we get.
No,
We go to Parish and we say, hey,
yes,
look,
it's a
we
poop,
have
it's
that
a poop
doggy
scoop bag,
Yeah.
but it's biodegradable.
Right.
So you've got plastic in the woods, but it's not going to be there very long.
Yeah.
We put 2 donuts in it, and then we use a scent lure that we hang on a string where the bear will have to stand up. So he has to go through the barbed wire and stand up to get that lure or that bait. And when he or she does that, it leaves hair on the barbed wire. So then we usually have college kid technicians, we hire for the summer to do this. And they go, if this is snare number 18 and it's run on Tuesdays, it's run on Tuesdays, rain, shine, hurricane. It doesn't matter. You go to it. And I go to it, and we have a start tree. And all right, I got hair on the top wire on the 32nd barb. And they write, snare number 18 and the name of it and where the hair was and what barb. And they take tweezers or pliers and they pull it off and they put it in an envelope and they write all that information on the envelope. And then they look for the next one. Well, there may be 19 and 20 may also have it too. And then they go around the whole snare. And, they may get 1 sample or 2 samples or 45 samples, depending on if it's a heavy bear use area. And then they take a torch and they burn all the excess hair off. And so when they come back next week, any hair there is new. And sometimes you get hog hair, which is black. Sometimes you get deer hair, You may even have a dog come through there. So you get hair that's not always bear. So we have them collect whatever they think, and then we sort it out later. And we need at least 5 strands. But we collect all that information. So they go to the studies usually last 6 to 8 weeks, but you have about 2 weeks of building and 2 weeks of tearing down. So it's really closer to 10 or 12 weeks to run the study. And they collect all that hair, and then we send it. We have to get a CITES permit for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife because we're shipping hair over to another country. We send it to Canada, WGI, Wildlife Genetics in Canada. And they analyze that DNA sample, can identify that bear, and I'm going to oversimplify it a little bit. It's a capture mark recapture study or a mark recapture study because you catch the bear in this snare this week, you catch it in that snare next week. So it was caught the first time it was marked. You have recaptured it, and they put it in a mathematical formula that is way too complex for me to explain to you, and that's how we get our number. And we know this is how many we have at least this many bears.
And this thing will come up on a report, and it'll let you know.
Right. So
this DNA on this bear shows up however many times throughout this study.
Right. So, well, keep in mind, you're going to get hundreds of samples, if not 1,000. So, obviously, if you've got bear hair snare 18 and it's barb 32, 34, and 35, it's probably the same bear. So, do we spend money on all 3 of them? Maybe we do 2 of the 3, or we do the 2 best. Maybe one of them's 3 hairs and the other 2 is 10 hairs. So because it's very expensive. And so we send all that to Canada. So we do the bear snare. We usually start building in May. We finish in late July, early August. We get all that. We ship it to Canada. If we have our CITES permit ready to go, that's another road we have to go down. And we send that to Canada. You get that back the following spring, and it goes to Dr. Joe Clark with USGS at University of Tennessee. And he's the world's foremost black bear population estimator. Ideally, if we start this May and everything runs smoothly, then the following July or August, I might have the data back. So it's a 2-year roll around, But by the time you get it to WGI, and so I sent a bunch of hair off this past September from what we did this summer. So we should get that back, hopefully, to Joe Clark in May, and hopefully he'll have it analyzed by the end of summer, which will be about a 1.5-year turnaround, which is pretty quick, depending on if you have your CITES permit or not. We had it. If it falls wrong and you got to wait a little longer, it's usually 1.5 to 2 years to get that data back. And so we have 5 populations that we're monitoring. We have the Tensal population, which is where we had the hunt, and we have bear areas just like we have deer areas. They're not the same, but that was bear area 4. Bear area 3 is what we would call the repat, and that's where bears were reintroduced in the early 2000s to connect the Tensal and the Point Capee, or the also known as the Upper Atchafalaya population.
Okay.
And those bears were taken out of Tensal and put in, like where Yancey WMA, Red River, Three Rivers was what it used to be called. That's where those bears were put. That was in the early 2000s, so it wasn't that long ago. And that connected those populations, and that connectivity was required for the recovery effort. We could not get them off the list if we didn't complete these certain tasks, and that was one of the big tasks. We had to connect those 2 populations, and we did that. So we have those you have the Tensal, you have the repat, then you have the Upper Atchafalaya, also known as Point Capee. Then we have the St. Mary population, or the Lower Atchafalaya population. So they have those 4 main populations that we've been snaring well since before the bear was, that was part of the recovery effort, the early 2000s, and we've been doing that for 20 years. And once they were recovered, we're not required to do that anymore by Fish and Wildlife, but we still do it because it's the best way to get our estimates, because we have a low density bear population that's not everywhere all the time. We've also added the Ouachita River Basin, which is Union and Morehouse. And we did that the first time in the summer of 23, and I should get that data back this summer also. Now, I live in Union Parish, and I've lived in Morehouse Parish, and I hunt up there and everything else, and I get a lot of that. There's no more bears. There's bears so most bears anywhere in the world is in Union Parish or Morehouse Parish, and frankly, that's not true. There are bears there, and like I can tell you, I don't know how many bears we're going to get back from Joe Clark's data because it hasn't been run yet. But, we just had a little over 300 samples. Well, that sounds like that's 300 samples, 300 bears. Well, one bear may have been 50 samples because he's addicted to donuts, and he goes there every week, and he leaves 10 samples for you. So just, to compare it to Tensas, I might have 1,200 samples in the same study, 4 times as many samples. That doesn't mean there's not some bears in Morehouse and Union, but I'm expecting that population estimate to be much lower than like a Tensas or Point Capee area.
Now, the ones in Union Parish too, is that some that have wandered up that way and then you put these snares out, or is that some that were captured and transplanted,
So
or both?
both and. So yeah, if I've got a PowerPoint, I could show you all this, on a screen. But when we were moving bears from Tensas to Yancey WMA to connect Point Capee and Tensas, Arkansas was moving them from White River to Felsenthal. Well, Felsenthal sits on the state line just above us. And we have Upper Ouachita National Wildlife Refuge on the Louisiana side, and those bears go up and down the river. So the majority of the Union Morehouse bears are from, those White River bears that got moved to Felsenthal. However, the first bears that I ever caught, I believe it was in 2002 or 2003, it was a female with 4 yearlings. We caught her at the Dunn exit, just west of Delhi. And she was headed to Tensas. She had been in Felsenthal, had wintered in Union Parish, and had crossed the interstate and was in Bear Area 4. She was in the Tensas Bear Area. She wasn't in Tensas Parish, but she was nearly she was in the eastern side of Richland, which is in that Bear Area. So I have firsthand of them walking from there to.
Wow.
Listen, and you said their range is how far?
125 miles. From
125 square miles is the upper end of a male's home range. A female's home range the upper end is usually about 12 and a half square miles, but that's still 8,000 acres.
Well, that's not quite. That's not 100 miles, but it's more. It's between 50 and 100. Is it?
Well, it depends on
70 miles.
It depends on, did she go as the crow flies or did she follow the roads? But she had crossed the interstate.
I would have figured she'd have followed.
She probably,
Water.
yeah. She may have. Well, she may have walked down to the Ouachita River and kind of went around Monroe and hit the interstate and crossed it and went east.
That's unbelievable. That's a long way to go.
Yeah. So that's nothing for them. So we have Tensas bears mixing with those bears, and then we have bears that are at White River that go down through Mississippi and come in the eastern side of Louisiana. So we have a lot of, and look, there's 64 parishes in the state, and there could be a bear on any day in any parish. We know we have bears in the Kisatchie National Forest. We know we have bears in Caldwell Parish. We know there's some bears in western Louisiana, but not at the density that we have in the Tensas River Basin or the Mississippi Alluvial Valley or the Atchafalaya
And that
Basin.
kind of goes right back to what we asked up to begin with, and,
Right.
and I'm glad you made that circle. So it's not that the state of Louisiana is covered up with bears. It's just that the majority of the bears are in 3 or 4 parishes.
Well, it's probably a little more than 3 or 4. I would say 90% of our bears are in the Mississippi Alluvial Valley and the Atchafalaya Basin. And if you want to throw in the Ouachita River Basin, you could do that too. So from East Carroll to St. Mary, that strip, when you look at the map and you think about the Delta and then you think about the Atchafalaya Basin, that's where 90% of the bears are.
Okay.
Nice. So we're pushing 1,500 bears-ish. Could be a little more, a little bit more, could be a little less. We'll have updated numbers.
Right. And then you just got
to
to guess where because it's very expensive to do that work. It takes,
Right.
A couple of years to get it done. So am I going to spend that kind of money to go to West Louisiana and do these 4 parishes to find out there's 10 bears?
Probably not.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
So
No,
I know there's bears there, but
Are you going you're going to go through the work, and you're probably just not going to go through the rigorous trials to get that. But if you're talking about 1,500 bears, there's got to be a number that LDWF that y'all have in mind of a good, healthy bear population. Is that something? Are you aware of that number yet? Of like a good population statewide that you would like to have, or is that a factor in anything?
Or like a deer state, how much can a property maintain?
What's the carrying capacity?
Carrying capacity.
Yeah, let's talk about carrying capacity. This is one of my favorite things. So carrying capacity, that's I like to talk about this because when we think about carrying capacity, we talk about what the land can handle. But there's another carrying capacity that's very important with bears is social carrying capacity. What will the people that live with them put up with? How long will they stand a bear, being destructive to their crop? Well, bears do some crop destruction, but we have probably a lot more problems with deer and hogs doing that. That's not a number one thing. But what bears do that hogs and deer certainly don't do is they may eat the hose off the diesel tank that runs the pump that irrigates your field, and then there you have 4,000 gallons of diesel spilled on the ground at $4 a gallon, and it's in your field now, and you're not going to grow any corn in that acre and a half where it's spilled. And there's things you can do to mitigate that. A little bit of electric fencing goes a long way, and things, but it's stuff that you didn't grow up doing, you didn't have to do before. So how long are you willing to put up with that? I have some farmers that don't mind bears at all, and they'll tell you that if you can't stand some deer damage and bear damage and hog damage, you're not farming correctly. And then I have other farmers that absolutely cannot stand them. So, and I would say that the bears are, while they are still expanding out of Tensas and Madison, they're probably at carrying capacity for the ground in Tensas, but they're also at social carrying capacity, or maybe even beyond it, because these landowners have stuck with us for the last, they were listed in 92, they were delisted in 16, so they've been hearing this whole time. We're going to have a bear season one day. We're going to have a bear season one day, and a lot of people don't want you to hunt bears, but we're a hook and bullet agency. We're here for, fishing and hunting and non-consumptive use, paddling canoes and bird watching and looking at butterfly gardens. And we want bats to be there for pollination and insect control. We're not just hook and bullet, but that is a big part of us. We manage the deer and the squirrels, and there's a rich heritage of hunting in Louisiana. And at one time there was a rich heritage of bear hunting, but that's gone. So now we get to this new season here, and we're kind of starting over. There's a lot of people that have hunted a lot of things, but not bears in Louisiana. It's a different animal. So I would say we're at carrying capacity both socially and for the land in Tensas, but as they expand out, maybe not. There's certain people that want bears, but they've never had bears. And if you live with bears at a high density for 10 or 15 years, you probably don't want them quite as much. Or you find out how I got to be to live with them. And it's a change in lifestyle. If you grew up with that and your grandpa grew up with that and it's always been that way, it doesn't bother you. But if it's just happened to you in the last 8 or 10 years, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
It's an inconvenience. Well, and it's an inconvenience because you don't get to go out there and you don't get to hunt them. How many guys do you hear complaining about deer going out there and eating their stuff? A lot of them, but when they get those 40 DMAP tags, they have fun. So it's not
they have
nowhere
a
near
deprivation tag, but that they can take them they can take the
my
deer out in the spring or what have you.
Yeah, but you get way. My point is you get to go out and you get to hunt them. You get to go out and have fun and shoot some does and do that. Whereas bears, you don't get to do that. And so allowing the season, I know we only had 11 tags technically, but 10 tags to the public. And you can answer that, or you can say that. I didn't even know that till here recently, but about the 11th tag. But I think now that we have a season, especially kind of as it grows, I know it may take years and years to get the number. It's not going to be as quick as we all want it, but
you just had to have a starting point.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but bears are atop the food chain. You don't have more lions than you have zebra and gazelles. You don't have more bears than you have deer and things like that. Now, hogs are invasive. They're highly reproductive. They have about 6 piglets a year, can breed twice a year. Bears are extremely slow reproductive. So a female bear, she does not breed till she's 3 to 5 years old, and then she breeds every other year. So if that male catches her with cubs and he'll kill the cubs, so she'll go back into estrus or heat, and he can breed her again. So they're very slow reproductively, even versus a deer that's having fawns, 1 to 3 from probably age 2.5 on. Bear may not even breed till she's 5.5 if she's not on great habitat, but it's probably about 3. And she's going to have up to 5 cubs, but the average is 2. But she's going to keep those cubs for about 18, 20 months. She's gonna go into the den. Bears have this, black bears have this called delayed implantation. So she breeds in the summer, the eggs fertilize, but it doesn't implant until she gets the body condition that she needs in the winter. And then she goes into the den and implants, and right before she, in the winter it implants, and she has her cubs about now, maybe the first part of February. And then she'll keep those cubs all through the year. If they survive, go to the den with them next year as yearlings, and she will emerge with them in late April, early May, and sometime in June and July she'll kick them off and she'll breed again. So she every other year she's breeding.
What's the life cycle of a female bear?
Like the
lifespan. Yeah, sorry, lifespan.
So
yeah.
the oldest one I know about, we had one that was 32.
Holy smokes.
That's really old, but probably an old female is middle 20s.
Okay.
A male is a little bit younger than that. An old male is late teens, early 20s.
So you're talking about on average, one bear sow is responsible for on average 30 cubs, and that's about it.
Yeah, probably.
That's
yeah.
a lot.
And if they survive.
If they survive.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a lot.
There's no buck deer out there killing fawns.
Yeah.
Now, there's bears out there killing cubs. Now, there's
or
plenty
cars and traffic.
Yeah,
and that,
there's
you
plenty
know,
of other things that are killing fawns too, but there's also plenty of other things that killing bear cubs, like cars and the right dog, or
Right.
things like that. But yeah, so that it's not. There's never going to be as many bears as deer, and we don't want that many.
Right.
I get a lot of, we'd like, to have the historic number of black bears back in Louisiana. Well, what was the historic number? You can dig around on the internet and find different stuff, but may have been 80,000 bears.
Oh my word!
Well, Alaska's-
I wouldn't have thought. I didn't think it was anything like that.
Well, we're talking 200 or 300 years ago. Yeah. So we can't live with 80,000 bears. We have too many people. A lot of bears in a state now is 20 or 30,000. Alaska has 100,000. We certainly don't want 80,000 bears here. No. I'm happy with what we got. I don't necessarily want any less, but we're good. We've got plenty. We've got we've got them delisted. That's somebody asked me the other day, was this season a success? Was a success? We had a season. We had a listed species 8 years ago, and we've done that twice in Louisiana with alligator and now bears. Had a listed species and got them off. I don't know if that's been done anywhere else in the country, and it's certainly not because of me. It's because of hundreds and thousands of people that both work for our department and Fish and Wildlife Service and landowners and outdoor enthusiasts, and not even some people that not from this state, that have got us to that point. Whether they want the bears hunted or not, they all helped. They're all part of that.
And I mean, you have to have, if they're at the top of the food chain, the only thing that can regulate population is
us right here.
us.
Well, yeah, the number one killer of bears right now is other bears, and probably 18-wheelers. And so we have some excess animals in some areas, and that's where the 10 came from. And so we haven't bear hunted since 1987. And then I don't even know if a bear was killed, but we're going to do this a different way. And we look at what other states do, and you certainly can have a big open hunt in a state that's got 20 or 30,000 bears with mountains and things like that. We don't have that. We don't have that many bears. We're a population spread across the whole state. Tensas has a very dense bear population, but it's probably the lowest people population per parish in the state. So we look at all that, and we talk with Joe Clark, and we talk to other states, and this is what we got. And a bear population can sustain a 20% kill of females. All right, well, let's be careful. Let's do 10%. Okay, well, we got this many bears. This many female bears is what we think. Well, all right, then if it's 100, it's 10. Now, we have Tensas Refuge over there that was not hunted. No federal refuge was hunted. One WMA was hunted, or actually hunted on 2 of them, but just one WMA tag. So that core area, that Tensas area, it wasn't hunted, so it was largely protected. Now, those bears have such big home ranges that they come and go off of it. That doesn't mean every bear that's on Tensas was never going to have a chance for a hunter to kill, but it's a core area that's kind of protected somewhat. So we have that, and so the females that are there, we're not counting them in our population. We're counting the population outside of that, outside of Tensas, that we are going to hunt. Most of the hunting is going to take place outside of it.
Gotcha.
So when we got 100 females, we're going to kill 10 bears, and if they're all females, we can't hurt the population. If we kill all 100% females, it won't hurt them. Won't change the population number. That's what our data shows. Let's do that. Our administration came 2 years ago and said, hey, we want a bear season. We want to come up with a couple packages. Let's see what we can do, but let's be careful and do this right, because there's places like Florida that had bear season in, I believe, 2015 that don't have a bear season right now. And we didn't want to do a quota hunt. Quota hunt offers a lot of opportunity. You know, you could say we're going to kill 10 bears and we're going to sell as many licenses as people want to buy. And once we get to 10, we're going to stop. Well, we'd have got to 10 the first day.
Right.
And maybe we'd have got to 20 or 30.
That's what Arkansas does. And if I'm not mistaken, they're typically over quota every year because of that.
You can figure in over quota a little bit. But we just this bear was just listed. We don't want to over quota at all. And
we have 1,500 in population, and you put a quota and you kill 20 or 30. Oh, sorry. And then that's a big percentage.
Well, we want to do it right, and we haven't done it. You know, and when we were little boys, you know, the last time it happened, and whether they even had any bears that they hunted or killed when it was still open, I don't know. But we want to do this right, so let's do it slow and carefully. And that way, if we make a mistake or we see something's wrong, we can tweak it before next year or the year after. And hey, let's kind of experimental a little bit
not
here.
detrimental to the herd.
You know, we can't mess up.
Yeah,
we can't mess up. Everything can go wrong, and we're still going to be okay. So we have our 10 bears, and we have the secretary has a tag that she can auction or do whatever she pleases with there. And it went to a veterans organization. And I don't know if y'all have talked to Darren Santini. He's the Purple Heart recipient that got it. Great guy. He ended up killing the largest bear of the hunt. It was 696 pounds. That's also the largest bear I've ever seen or handled.
Wow.
So we'd had one that was 608 pounds that got run over 3 or 4 years ago that Johnny Berry had picked up for us. And he's our large carnivore biologist and my right-hand man. And if you think I do work, I don't. He carries me on his back. You know, he's doing something right now, so I can be here talking to y'all. So, you know, I'd be remiss without mentioning his name and how much he does for us. And he's just, you know, he's just such a good biologist, and he was a regional biologist and worked with me then. And we did everything from hummingbirds to alligators. Now, bears were a large part of our work because we were in a region where there was a lot of bears. We didn't choose to be bear people. We just kind of fell into it. And now we both do only bears, but, you know, he's planning our den season and, you know, our collaring and all that. He's taking care of all that while I'm handling this stuff. And then we make all these decisions together. You know, he's my right-hand man. And like I said, he does a lot for us. But he had that 608-pound bear. Neither of us had seen a bear that big, but we had just handled a bear that was 500 pounds like a couple of days before. And we actually heard the shot, you know, for the big bear. We were on the next property over. And we handled every single bear that was harvested. And we got hair samples, DNA samples. We got a tooth. We looked for tattoos and pit tags to see if we'd handled the bear before. We got a weight. We drew blood for a disease panel that we had never done before. And you said, well, 10 bears, you know, that's not a whole lot of big sample size. Well, we looked ahead, and when we were collaring bears in the late summer and early fall, we got blood samples. I think we caught 32 bears. We got blood samples off of 31 of them, so we could have a significant sample size in that area for blood. And what we're looking for is trichinosis and brucellosis and things like that, things that the bears may be carrying or likely could, but we don't know because we've never tested them. So we use this hunt not just we're going to go kill some bears to kill them. We want to see what's going on with our bears. What do they have?
I see.
You know, and we required those hunters to have come to a bear hunting education class, and we'd never done anything like that. And Maria Davidson, you know, we talked about earlier, who's with Safari Club, she helped us a lot with that. And Sean Clarkson, I believe is his last name. He was with American Bear Foundation, and he came, and Maria talked about the history of the bear because she was a big part of that. And then she talked about other states that have hunting seasons or have populations that may or may not hunt. And we had that class, and those guys, you know, some of them had bear hunted in other states. Some of them had never even thought about hunting a bear. They certainly, a lot of them hadn't eaten bear. You know, we went over recipes for bear, how to tell a male from a female,
cool.
The history of the bear, you know, what the regulations were. If you were going to kill a bear, here's a list of phone numbers. We're going to put our hands on the bear the day you kill the bear, and we need these samples. You know, we touched every bear. We were in contact with those hunters daily, like, are you hunting this evening? Because if nobody's hunting this evening, I can go home at 6 and not stay out to 10 that night.
Right.
You know, we worked every day of the bear season.
And how long was that bear season?
It was 16 days. So it was 16 days, and we back to the quota thing. You know, we didn't want to do that quota because we didn't want to over quota. But another thing we didn't want to do, more importantly than not over quota to me, was I wanted, if Richard was successful in the lottery and he had his tag, and I made him come to this educational course, and I asked him to watch bears and learn about bears and try to kill an older, more mature bear, or a bear that was, you know, a male. You know, you could kill a female legally, but you could not kill a female with a cub. And you could not kill a cub. A cub was 75 pounds or less. A female with a cub or accompanied by a cub was illegal to kill. And nothing wrong with killing females. We just want them to be solitary females that didn't have cubs. So by him not having to worry about a quota, he doesn't have to shoot the first bear I see because the season's going to be over tomorrow. I can hunt, I can look, I can have my cameras, I can't really tell. I can hang, you know, a scent lure in a tree, and maybe it stands up and it shows me what it is. And, you know, it allows me, there was a gentleman that hunted, and we'll just use his first name, but Mr. Roy, got to be good friends with him. And he told me that he'd been hunting over there like 36 years, deer hunting, and he'd always seen bears, but now he studies them. That's a male, that's a female, that's, you know, and he passed on some bears maybe he shouldn't have. And, you know, I thought this bear was this size, and it turned out to be, you know, that's a much bigger bear than I realized. But now he says every time I see one, it's like, I think that's a female, and that's about this big. And, oh, look, she's got 2 cubs, you know, and they're you know, there's that one's on the right. It's got a blaze. You know, he's studying the bears.
Well, maybe the education part of it keeps people from having that fire to want to go kill one, get them gone. You know.
Yeah, we're not going to get them gone. We're going to always have them. You know, that's our charge.
But I'm on their property, though. I mean,
right.
You know, I think that's wonderful that y'all had a meeting with these folks.
Right, and
that's the first time I've heard
I want to say, you know, my bear hunters that we had this year, they're not my bear hunters. Our bear hunters that we had this year were a great group of guys. They listened. That was a long class with PowerPoints. It was like 3.5 hours, and they were more engaged at the end than at the beginning. And they had questions, and they talked to each other. And some of them let this one hunt on their property when he wasn't seeing a bear that he wanted on that property. And you know, I don't want to shoot a female, or I want to do this. And it was okay. If you didn't kill a bear, that's fine. We wanted you to hunt a bear. This was not bear killing. This was bear hunting. And I got a couple comments of, you know, hey, y'all had the bear season at the wrong time. We want to have it in hyperphagia. And if you don't know what hyperphagia is, that's extensive, intense eating. And bears do that in late October and early November here, and they can eat up to 30,000 calories a day. That's 72 quarter pounders with cheese. Now, I know maybe when you were in college you could get that, but not anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot of hamburgers. Now, they're eating this in pecans and deer corn and soybeans and acorns and whatever they can get. So if you got deer feeders out at that time, they are wrecking them. But a lot of them, if you go to Tensas or Madison Parish and you look at a pecan orchard in November, you may see 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 bears in one pecan orchard. They have a different tolerance for them. It's just like a salmon stream in Alaska with grizzly bears. You know, you'll see them all. You've seen them on TV. Bears don't tolerate each other like that normally. So, yeah, it would be easy pickings if you had a pecan orchard like that to go out there and, well, I got all these bears to choose from. But it's also, we don't want it at that time because you've got a lot of bears mingling together, mothers with cubs. What cub belonged to what mother? It's against the law to shoot, you know, a female bear with a cub. I thought that wasn't a cub. I thought that was just, you know, I wanted a medium-sized bear. You know, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. And this is not bear killing; it's bear hunting. We wanted you to have the experience of hunting a bear. You know, everybody didn't kill one. We had 11 hunters, and 10 of them were successful, which is 91%. That's incredible.
Pretty strong.
Yeah, but 30% would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But it was 91%. And, you know, they killed 2 females, and both of them were older. Neither one of them had nursed in a while.
But you got all the data.
I got I have all their weights. We took a tooth out of every bear. Only one of the 10 had we handled before. We send that tooth off. It'll be aged at Mattson's lab, and we'll get that back. And it's just like age in a tree. You count the rings. It's a little harder to do with southern animals because we don't have those hard seasons. You know, our winter and summer kind of
They mix. They
we
coincide
can have 80
multiple times.
80 degrees
Yeah.
at Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect science, but it's better than nothing. And we'll have a general idea. You know, we may not know if this bear's 18 or 21, but we'll know it's between 18 and 21. You know.
So on age on a cub, what age will they be killed or not be able to make it on their own without their mom?
So that's another thing about not having the hunt during hyperphagia is they're putting on about, you know, up to 30,000 calories a day. Now, certainly a cub is probably not doing that, but the big males are. But he is putting on a lot of weight, or she is putting on a lot of weight. So our bear season's in mid to late December when the bears, they're not in the den, but they're starting to think about it. And maybe by the end of the season, some of them are starting to go to den. By the time they've got to that point, they have their winter weight on. You know, they may be twice their size. You know, so if that bear was 18 pounds in, you know, mid-October, well, in mid-December, probably 40 pounds.
So what does a cub when they're born do with just average around here from a Louisiana
like
black bear sow?
The day they're born is probably about 8 ounces.
So they're real little.
They're real little. Now they may grow an ounce a day at certain times of that. You know.
Yeah. So and they're born what time of the year? Like around
like now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, so by next hunting season, they won't be quite a year old. But what will a cub be at hunting season weight wise?
I would say they're probably mostly going to be between probably 35 and 60 pounds. You know, you could have one that was 70, 75.
But unlikely.
But unlikely, no. But if it was a male cub with a really good mother that had demanded a great habitat, and you know, it's possible. But you know, that's why we have the 75-pound cub weight. But you know, in our class, we talked to those guys about 75 pounds and said, if you think the bear's 100 pounds, don't shoot.
Yeah.
That gives you a 25-pound buffer.
Yeah.
You know, that way, if you make a mistake, at least 95. You know?
Right.
You know, well, you're still legal.
Yeah. So
and maybe that's a 2-year-old or 3-year-old bear, depending.
right. And I know like Dr. Grant Woods, doctor, you know, he does all the deer studies and that out of Missouri, and he has a really cool video out talking about do you shoot does with fawns, like with yearlings. So I guess at what age or what weight is it safe to shoot a mother with cubs? I know it's illegal. I get that, but I'm trying to get back around.
I would say there is no weight for us, you know, for a mother to harvest a mother with cubs because they're depending on her at that point.
So really, until they're weaned, if they go without their mom.
Well, likely if she were, you know, it'd be illegal to kill her. But if let's say she was
Hit by an
18-wheeler in December, or even right now, she should be in the den with them. But if she's hit and she had cubs that were nearly a year old or right at a year old, they should survive.
They should, okay.
But they're going to go unprotected next spring and summer, and you know, if they encounter a male, they're more likely to be, you know, and they don't, you know, that whole 18, 20 months they spend with her, she's teaching them, you know, where to feed. Now, you know, the bears that we have the most problems with, you know, as far as there's a bear breaking into this, or he's this, or he won't leave the trash, it's those yearling or 2-year-old males that are, I'm on my own now, I don't know where to go,
right,
but this smells good. You know, and bears have an incredible sense of smell, probably 5 times greater than a bloodhound. They can smell cooking chicken something like 5 miles away.
Wow.
You know,
Oh, my goodness.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 4, but it doesn't matter. You can't smell it from down the road hardly. But yeah, so they're this big, you know, incredible animal that, you know, deserves a lot of respect, but also needs to be managed. And hunting is just a tool in the toolbox for management. And bears, you know, a 300+ pound bear can provide 200 plates of food to a family. So about a third of the bear is edible. So if it's 300 pounds roughly, it's about 100 pounds of meat. You eat about 8 ounces a serving. That's 200 plates of food.
A lot.
And then I don't know if you know about bear fat, but bear fat, especially when you hunt the time of year we did, that's as big as the bears are going to be. We had one of the males, the big male. He had over 7 inches of fat on his back.
Wow,
thick.
Oh,
so yeah, so you can render that and like lard. And people talk about duck fat and things like that. Well, bear fat is just as valued. And I had some hunters that rendered, 4, 5, 6 gallons of bear fat and oil, and they're baking cookies with it, and they're baking pies with it or peach cobblers.
Well, what did they say?
Oh, it's incredible. It's delicious. And, they use it for everything. Now, you can use it to waterproof your boots if you like. You can get on the internet and look up how to render bear fat and its uses, and you'll spend a half a day reading about it.
Until now, I had no reason to do it. I'm going to look and see just what I was
Go in there and look, and I don't remember this exactly, but bear oil, I believe, is one of the top 3 exports in Louisiana a couple hundred years ago, and Arkansas too. So yeah, bear oil was a big thing, just like whale oil was back in the whaling days. So they lit lamps with it, they cooked with it, that's what they had for hand lotion or waterproofing.
Valuable.
Yeah, extremely valuable.
Clay Newcomb, you know that name?
I do not.
So have you being the bear guy, have you heard of I don't know how much podcast you listen to, but the Bear Grease podcast? You haven't heard of that?
I haven't heard of that.
Oh, dude. Okay, so Clay Newcomb. Clay, there's no chance. I don't even want to act like I'm talking to him. There's no chance. We have a big audience. There's no chance he's listening to this. He might, with it being you on. And Clay, you have an invite to come on, sit right here, and talk with you. But Meat Eater?
Yeah, Steve Ranella, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve, one of his guys, been with him forever. You've seen him, it's just I'm talking about back in the holler kind of guy. Just younger dude. Sweet, beautiful family up around the Ozarks in Arkansas. And he has the Bear Grease podcast, and he talks about rendered, and they do all these stories and everything. But he's a part of the Meat Eater team.
Oh, I may have seen him on TV. I watched one recently where they were hunting bears like in a wetsuit in Alaska.
Yes,
or
that's
something.
him.
Okay,
yes,
so I saw that.
Okay, so that's Clay Newcomb. I mean, he's awesome. I've showed you some of their stuff before, like some of those videos. But I would. It would be awesome. This is totally off track. I would love to get you and him both on because I guarantee he'd have some fun. Talking to you about some of the studies and stuff like that. So Clay, we're coming for you, buddy. But yeah, they talking about rendering the bear fat, and dude, they do everything.
They do, and that was part of this hunting season when we had that educational classes. I've been around bears all my career, and now I'm around bears all the time. But I don't hunt bears. I've had to kill a bear because it was injured or hurt or things like that, but never had the opportunity to hunt bears. And, as a state employee, we can't put in for our own lotteries, which is fine. But I don't know how to render bear fat, and I don't necessarily know how to cook bear the right way. But that's why we had, the guy from the American Bear Foundation, Sean Clarkson, come and he told those guys this, and this is, the best shot placements, and this is how you tell the female from the male. And when you get the bear, this is what he said. He said, bears start spoiling 5 seconds before you take the safety off. So what he's telling you is don't ride him around and show him to people. Get him gutted, get him clean, get him cooled off. You have a huge resource there of meat and fat and things you can use it for. Don't waste it. And, if you look in our regulations, you've heard, what wanton waste is with waterfowl. Right. We don't have any wanton waste with deer or anything like that, but we do with bears. You have to remove all edible portions of the bear, and that's all 4 quarters, the tenderloins on the inside, and the back straps. Now, if you want to give them away or whatever, that's up to you, but you don't leave that in the field. And, the places like in Alaska and the Yukon, you don't, if you kill a moose, you got to strip all the meat and bring all that out before you touch the antlers. Well, we made it where we want people to utilize this animal.
That's awesome.
This is not bear killing, it's bear hunting and then bear using.
Where do you shoot one at?
Well, they've got they're different from a deer. And that's the first thing we tell people is they're different from a deer. And if you're going to shoot them behind the shoulder, you want that arm extended where it opens up the shoulder a little bit because they have extremely dense muscle and bones compared to a deer. You don't want to shoot one with a ballistic tip. You want a bigger gun. Bears are extremely resilient and tough, and you owe it to the bear to make a good clean kill and a good clean shot. And so if you're going bear hunting, don't just listen to me. Study a lot of it on the internet. Listen to some of those guys that have bear hunted their whole life. Use a big caliber, some sort of heavy bullet like a partition or something that's going to stay together and go through the bear. You shoot him something like a ballistic tip in the shoulder, it's not getting into the vitals.
Yeah, if somebody that had this tag, he didn't want to shoot one with a gun. He wanted to shoot with a bow. Did y'all have a stipulation?
Yeah, we had one killed with a bow.
Oh, did you?
We did. We had one killed with a bow. So, and our stipulations were a little bit different than bear, but very similar. So, I believe the Louisiana law reads you can't shoot a deer with anything smaller than 22 caliber. Bear's 25 caliber. I kind of wanted it to be 30 caliber, but the world has 270s or 7 mags, and they're not 30 caliber. But we had bear hunters that used 308s and bear hunters that used 300 Win mags, and somebody used a 375 H&H, I believe. But bears are a big animal, and if you're going to hunt an animal and that animal deserves ethical hunting, and so we wanted not just go out there and take whatever you got. We talked about that, and we'll talk more about that next year, because we learned, hey, you want to make sure that you got a big enough gun and enough bullet, and study these bear and how they're standing, because bears, deer stand there broadside, or they stand. Bear can sit down like I'm sitting.
Right.
Bear can stand up on his hind feet. Bear could be halfway up a tree. It's all kinds of different. You're not used to. And we want an ethical, clean kill.
Yeah.
And our hunters did too. They did great. I asked them to, hey, all these bear seasons are 50-50 female male, and that would be great. But it would really be great if you could get 60-40. They did 80-20. So what you couldn't ask for more.
Right.
Yeah.
What are the factors that contributed to the 2024 season? Because like you said, I remember being in high school. It's probably just a rumor, and that was 2012 when I graduated. So I remember there being a rumor of a bear season even then, which I'm sure it wasn't.
Right.
But you've always heard about, man, there's going to be a bear season one day. What led up to it to being in 2024?
There was a bear season before, and that part of bringing the bear back was not just to have bears, but to have bears at a huntable population. And we had gotten to that point, and we got to where, hey, we have data and we know what we can do with these, and we spent, I don't know, I guess it was maybe 16 or 17. We met with other states that had bear seasons, and hey, what are y'all doing, and why did you do it this way? And we moved real slow on that, but we did our due diligence, and it that bear came off the threatened species list, so we owe it to the bear to spend some time on it, not just a knee jerk. Hey, we're going to go shoot some bears. Let's try to do this and do this right, and then the people that have the opportunity, let's make sure they know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and let's not. The thing that I think Florida ran into was, they had that season in 2015, people that didn't hunt, they didn't like what they saw. And, while me and you like to hunt, we like to hunt, everybody doesn't. And we need to be respectful of that. And they have just as much right not to hunt as we have to hunt. So we need to do it in a tasteful way and tell them why we're doing it, that we're utilizing this animal. And it's not just, we're going to shoot it and leave it laying in the sun. We're going to waterproof our boots with it, and we're going to bake cookies with it, and we're going to utilize this animal, and we're going to see, does it have any diseases?
Right.
And this thing is not wasted.
Yeah, you're studying that animal to see what you can do to get more of these,
or
out there,
make them
conservation.
more healthy. Maybe just, hey, we have this issue, or we don't have this issue that other states have, and we know, and you sometimes can't get that from, without handling the bears.
Now, John, look, let me ask you a question. Now, when we first started this deal, we talked about the snares and the hair pulling and the genetics. Back in the day, a Louisiana black bear, is that genetic gone?
So, I'm not a geneticist.
Now, first of all, if these guys killed 10 bears out of 11 tags, and they killed them in the state of Louisiana, that's a Louisiana black bear. But was there any, and I interrupt you, but is there anything back in the past that said this is the genetic makeup of a Louisiana black bear? Was there anything?
So when they were listed, they measured skulls. And this size skull was, we had to look it up and read exactly what happened. But it was skull measurements. This is a subspecies, the luteolus, the Louisiana black bear. And it was listed as that. Now, we have DNA stuff now, technology that we didn't have then. And I'm not a geneticist, but geneticists can tell you, they can, there was bears brought to Louisiana from Minnesota in the middle 60s, like 62 to 65, right in there, just middle 60s. It may have been 61 to 67. It was 131 bears. Well, I think 31 of them went to Tensas and 100 of them went to Point Capee. And you can still pick that up, that genetic Minnesota in there.
Oh, wow.
Now, they brought them because there was hardly any bears and they were worried about them. And they wanted to add bears. Now, a lot of people are, well, you know, that's not a Louisiana black bear. Well, I wasn't even born yet. So I can't worry about that. That's what happened. And those bears did breed with our bears, and there is a Minnesota gene. You'll see a little bit in Tensas, but more in those Point Capee bears. But there's still much more of the original bear that was there. Now, you know, the Louisiana black bear originally was Louisiana, Arkansas, East Texas, Mississippi, maybe even over to Alabama. You know, who knows how far it stretched 500-600 years ago. Do we have that exact? I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, but we do have technology today that probably will tell us that one day. Well, whether that's next year or the next decade, I don't know. But you know, that certainly we'll as technology advances, we'll know more about that. But what we have now is the Louisiana black bear, and we don't have color phases. But if a bear walks from Arkansas into Louisiana, it's a Louisiana black bear. But it's probably also considered an American black bear if it walks in from Louisiana to Arkansas.
Yeah.
We call them what we want. You shoot it. You can call it. You can call it whatever.
Well, it
you
was
want.
listed as a Louisiana black bear.
Yeah.
It was delisted as a Louisiana black bear. We're treating it as the Louisiana black bear.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go any further, let's do this commercial break, and we'll come right back.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
All right.
All right. So we're back from break. Thank you all for staying in. We're about an hour deep on this thing, and I feel like we're kind of getting to some of the good stuff. But Richard, while he was still on potty break, coming back,
It was a commercial break.
I mean, while we were still on commercial break. Sorry, Richard.
You get my age, you have to have these commercial breaks.
I needed one too. But while we were on commercial break, before he came back in, I know you heard the tail end of the story, but the lady that was doing the grizzly study, you said it was Alaska?
It was in Montana. In Montana. Look, I have it on my phone. I know I'm being rude, but I want to make sure I say her name right. But let me find Amber's picture here. And it was I believe it was a Steve Ranella podcast, Meat Eater, but she did it not long after that. But she was attacked by a grizzly bear, and she was doing kind of like hair snare work. They were getting DNA samples. Now, I'm not saying they had a barbed wire set up just like ours, because grizzlies are much different. I don't work with grizzlies, you know.
You're probably thankful you don't work with
but,
grizzlies, huh?
But she does. Yeah, that might be more than I could bear.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't mean for that to be.
Well, that was a pun.
no
That's
pun
right.
intended.
Yes, sir.
But let me find Amber in here real quick for you so I give you the right information. I was at the International Bear Human Conflict meeting in Lake Tahoe in October of, I guess it had been October of 23, and that's where I met Amber. And, you know, she told me all this just like we're sitting here talking about it. And it's hard to listen to. Got too many.
Hanks, I'm going to tell you something. You know, this bear study deal is, turkeys never really took you to Lake Tahoe, did they?
You know, turkey didn't take me to Lake. I'm going to New York in April for the Eastern Black Bear meeting of the whole Eastern United States.
How about that?
So
That's awesome.
But, you know, without all that information sharing and things that we are doing is we wouldn't, you know, why make a mistake somebody else did when it's just simple as having a conversation about it? You don't have to go through that. You don't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, we can podcast and we can Zoom and we can text and we can FaceTime or whatever it is you do. Pick up the telephone and talk to somebody. You can send an email and, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Well, don't, because this is what we did when it happened to us. You know?
Amber Cornack?
Amber Cornack, yeah.
Yep.
So there's a picture of her right there. So
there.
So you see her with me. So she's not, you know.
She does not look like she got mauled by a grizzly bear.
And you can see, you know, I'm not a great big man, so she's not, you know, she's a small, petite lady. But Amber, that's the bear that got Amber. And, you know, she probably doesn't mind us sharing any of this as long as you promote bear spray and bear safety and realize that it wasn't the bear fault. So.
Holy smokes.
Now with this thing is on her, she deterred it with bear spray.
So yeah, she was doing this.
Lord.
You'll have to listen to the podcast to get it exactly right. Amber told me this, but it's been almost 2 years, and she had done a poster there and had everything on there about it, the dates and everything about the bear, and she was doing DNA testing or hair samples or whatever. They were collecting samples, whatever they were, and the snow was melting and maybe the water was rushing a little more. But you sing and clap and you make noise going to these because you encounter bears and you're in, the backwoods and the sea. It says, I'll tell you exactly where it was. So
this is episode 167 of the Meat-Eater podcast. So anyone listening, if you want to go back and hear her story for yourself,
you should.
Episode 167, I think it says,
yeah,
Mauled by a Grizzly.
Yeah.
Meat-Eater podcast.
Yeah, it was Amber Cornack is her name, and this was at Poor Man Creek, May 17th, 2018. So, and Amber, as far as I know, is still working for Fish and Wildlife Service there now with bears.
Now I saw this bear laying. Did they hunt this bear down?
I'll tell you what they did with it. So I'll just tell you what happened to Amber, and listen to the podcast because you need to hear it from her, and she's going to tell you exactly what happened, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase it.
That's fine.
So Amber's doing her work there, and she comes to this clearing, and I believe she said it had glacier lilies in it or whatever it was that the bears were eating, and she didn't just burst into the clearing. She's looking for the bear, and she's got her backpack all on, and she's looking for the bear, and she's looking for the bear, and make sure before she gets in there she doesn't startle somebody, and she looks in there, he is just like you. So she
like 3 foot away.
Like I can touch you, and so she sees him and she said, I knew he was going to get me when I saw him, and like I said, listen to her so you can get it right. But she turned away and she was hoping that he would grab her by the backpack, and she was going to the ground and she had bear spray, and she took it off and she sprayed. He immediately she turned her head. Can you hear me on the
yes,
mic?
sir. Yeah, you're good.
As soon as she turned her head, he got her, and she said it was like he cut the light switch off. She couldn't hear anymore. So she immediately, she knew when she turned, she started taking her bear spray off, and she just sprayed. He had her on the ground. He crushed her head, and she sprayed him and her and emptied the bear spray on him. Well, bear spray, I don't know if she was carrying an 8-ounce can or a 10-ounce can. It doesn't matter, but about an ounce is about a second. Usually if you were spraying a bear, you'd get about a second or second and a half on him. She gave it all to him. And he let her go as soon as she sprayed him. Let her go. Well, he'd crushed her skull, and I think it was his bottom left canine. Listen to the podcast. Listen to her, get it right. And it pierced her eardrum, and that's why she couldn't hear anymore. And it went, it went into her skull. It did not. I don't think it got into her brain, obviously, because she's still alive. But all he had to do is squeeze or shake her, and he killed her. Bear spray saved her life. Now, she'll tell you the story, and she's like, I was kind of, she's just a firecracker, it's like, what else could go wrong today type, she just got attacked by a grizzly bear, and she's, kind of amped up, and she, seems like I remember her telling me she put her hat on, and wasn't long it fell off, her head was swelling. She had a personal locator beacon and all, and she said the big lesson, there's several big lessons, and I have it on my phone on a poster, because when I talk about bear safety and bear spray, I talk about Amber because she's living proof of it. So she sprayed this bear with all her bear spray. Well, I don't remember it's a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles. It's a way she's got to come out. She don't have any more bear spray. So,
talk about being scared.
She always carries 2 now. And a gun would not have helped her. He had it by the head from behind. If she shot, am I hitting him in the ear, the nose, or am I killing myself? She didn't have a gun, I don't believe, but even if she had it would not have helped her. Bear spray is what she needed. Now, it burned her up. Contact burns. Bear spray, pepper spray that we use for bears is twice as strong as what the police use. And the police probably have a 2 or 3 ounce can. She probably had a 10-ounce can. It's a lot, and it burned her up, but, they got her in the ambulance, and she's fine today. But let me just read to you. Like I said, you need to see the podcast, but let me see what here. I have all these pictures I took. Carry 2 cans of bear spray. Be fully aware of your surroundings. Personal locator beacons are invaluable. Carry additional noise makers like whistles or something like that. Make noise. If that bear hears her coming, maybe he runs off. And if conducting activities in areas where high bear densities operate with multiple people. There's two of you. So you can help each other out. So let's see. She had 65 staples, plates, and screws in her skull, permanent hearing loss in her left ear, and range of movement in her right shoulder, and insomnia. So she's like I said, she's a firecracker. She survived all that, and she'll tell you about it. And she wants you to know about it because she wants you to use bear spray, and she wants you to not hate bears. The bear didn't hunt her down. She startled him. She told him that. She said, "Look, I scared him. It was just a reaction. Just like when you're bass fishing and you pull that frog over the log. Maybe he wasn't hungry. I had to bite it. It's the same thing. Yeah. So they didn't kill the bear. Well, but they go and they get hair there from where this attack happened, and they know the bear. I think his bear was bear 770. It'll tell you. I'm sure.
Did it have a collar on it?
Not at that point, but it did eventually. So it may have had one earlier. Let's see here. In 2005, it had been caught at age 12. It was about 250 pounds. And 18, that's when her incident happened. May of 18, the bear was 24 years old. May of 19, they had another conflict incident. It was I think they caught the bear and collared him then. And if I remember right, the bear was raiding a barn. I don't remember if it was elk in it or cattle or something like that. And they caught him. He didn't do anything, and they collared him and they let him go. That was in October of 19. Relocated him in November of 19. I think he came back to the same place. He weighed 550 pounds, and I think he broke into that same barn and killed whatever he was after. So they euthanized him, and in result, he was euthanized due to extensive tooth wear. He was just old, and then he didn't have good teeth anymore, and that's why he was raiding those barns and things like that.
And 500 pounds at what age?
He was 550. I guess he would have been 25 years old at that time. Yeah.
That's not a real.
That's not a huge grizzly bear, but it's plenty big. And he had, big claws, but his teeth were blunted. They were worn out, and that saved her life too. If he'd have been a young bear or younger bear with big, sharp canines, he'd have killed her.
So there's a chance he was probably larger than that at one time in his life. Oh,
certainly, possibly, yeah.
What's a big Kodiak? 800, 900 pounds?
You got me, but yeah, probably so. Yeah. I mean, we had a 696-pound black bear.
That is true. I'm going to look that up.
Look at Cameron Haynes.
Yeah.
Those grizzly bears he kills. There's no way that animal is 700 or 800 pounds. It's got to be bigger than that. It's 9 foot tall.
Yeah. So it's I'm sure.
I guess they're like us. You got tall ones, short ones.
Right. They're different sizes, and depending on where they live and all. There's Amber right there, with a kid showing him how to use bear spray. So when you think about bear safety, it doesn't matter if you're hunting in Tensall Parish and going to your deer stand, or you live in Madison Parish and you see bears in your yard, or you live in Maine or wherever. Bear spray is something you want to have if you're around bears, and it's perfectly legal to use. Now, it's bad stuff. If you get it on your hand, you're going to have a contact burn.
Yeah.
And if you get it on any other part of your body that's sensitive, you may go to the hospital because it's going to burn you. You don't want to get it in your eyes. You don't want to get it on any soft part of your body. You don't want it to go off in your car. If you leave it in your car in the Louisiana summer on the dashboard, it will explode and total your car. So they make I think they call it a bear koozie, and it's just some pipe insulation in like a little Tupperware container, and you put it in there and you put it under the seat, and that way it doesn't get too hot. You can probably wrap it in a towel.
Yeah.
So there's some safety precautions with just having it around, but anybody that lives, hunts, or is going to a place where there's bears like Gatlinburg or Pennsylvania or Alaska, you need to have bear spray.
Yeah.
And it nothing's 100%, but you can look at the research and stuff, and it's probably more effective than a fatal gunshot wound. And we're all hunters here. We know sometimes you shoot a deer or an animal, and they don't even react. And there's video of it doesn't matter if it's a black bear or a polar bear. There's video of different bears. I think the last one I saw was a polar bear where a guy shoots him 3 or 4 times with a high-powered rifle, and he still keeps attacking whoever he's attacking because he doesn't feel it.
Yeah.
And he dies, but 3 or 4 minutes later.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to spend 3 or 4 minutes with him.
Absolutely not.
I don't want to spend 30 seconds with it.
Mm-mm.
So, the likelihood of you getting attacked is very slim. But, if you're in your deer stand and a bear comes up to the bottom of it, you're in your deer stand, you're either wearing camouflage or concealed in a box or behind camouflage. Why is he coming up there? What do you smell like?
You smell, that's right.
What
He
did
didn't
you
know.
What did you eat this morning? What is the last thing you ate today, Richard? Thinking awful hard. Was it Oreos?
No, I'm trying to think of what I had. That leftovers from last night, I think.
Well, whatever you smelled like leftovers for last night all day today to a bear because how good his sense of smell
Right.
is. So you're hidden from him. They can see, but they don't see like a turkey or a deer. They're not out there afraid for their life, looking at every stump as a man that's going to get me. They're looking at everything as, can I eat that?
Yeah.
Is that log
an
got grubs
opportunity.
in it? Is there some acorns over there? And we have them, large carnivore. They're really an opportunistic omnivore. That probably 70 or 80% of what they eat is berries and grains and fruit. And while they do eat meat, can kill things. Probably most of the meat they eat is stuff that they recover from. It's either carrion or a fresh kill or a road kill. I get complaints from hunters in Tensas and Madison, where hey, we don't wait 30 minutes after we shoot our deer because we shoot our deer and within 10 minutes there's a bear in the right of way out there with his nose up in the air, winding, and we go to him and he's eating our bear. Our bear's eating our deer.
Yeah. I've heard stories of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they've learned, they're smart animals. They've learned that a gunshot means at least a gut pile,
Right.
and that's a lot of calories, and it's easy.
Yeah. So I know.
I know this.
No, go
Coming
ahead.
out of the woods before daylight. I mean, but after it gets dark, I'm going to sound like two people. I'm going to talk.
You're gonna scare
Yeah,
every
that's
mature
him.
buck in that country off.
What'd you see today? Well, I saw three.
I didn't say nothing.
Well,
I haven't seen anything all year.
I'll be talking to myself.
So I know. Go ahead.
Hats off to Amber though for sharing that with everybody,
Yeah.
and she shared that with me, and that's the first time I'd met her, and she was just so sweet and kind to share that, and told me that I could use any of this in anything I ever did as long as I promoted the safety thing, and the bear wasn't necessarily a bad guy. It was just wrong spot, wrong time
Yeah.
for her and the bear, and she's just a great person, and I was very fortunate to meet her and to have somebody that went through that tell you that face to face, just like we're talking. It gets to you,
Yeah.
and she's so strong.
Yeah.
Well, you get a bear that tastes human once, and they like it, and then that's a problem.
Especially if it
I
tastes
don't
like
know. I don't know
Oreos.
if that's true or not, but I don't want anybody to have to go through that. I
No.
mean,
Well, that's all right. I'm sure that's a tough story to tell.
oh yeah, it's a tough story to listen to, and it's a tough story to retell.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about what she went through.
Man,
And,
that's-
but hats off to her for sharing that and being.
She's not big as a minute. I
Oh,
mean,
no,
you're
no,
right. All he
no.
had to do was shake that head once or twice, and that
right.
was the
She,
end of it.
it was, it's. We were just, she was fortunate and blessed, and I was fortunate by, getting to talk to her, and when somebody, that stuff don't really work. Yeah, it does. It works.
Yeah, that's proof of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few different things to that. One of them, we all talk about as hunters conservation. That's always everybody's first thing when you have an anti-hunter or somebody saying, well, don't go and kill the animal for XYZ reason. That's a perfect reason that you want to go and you want to kill grizzly bears or you want to kill elk or deer or whatever, because these canines right here, when that bear, when he gets, you said 24 or however old he was, when he gets to a certain age, his teeth, they don't regrow like a lizard's tail. They're going to get blunt. He's going to get slow. And instead of being, I looked it up a while ago, if ChatGPT is right, a Kodiak, which to my understanding is the exact same thing as a grizzly, it's just different parts on the coastal region of Alaska. It feeds off high protein fish and things like that a lot more. But they could weigh up to 1,500 pounds, but on average 1,300 pounds for a mature male. Whereas a mature grizzly, an inland grizzly in Alaska, you're going to be looking about 650 to 700 pounds. So what did you say he was when they?
550, I believe. I
So-
believe it was maybe 457
So
or
it's
so.
it's relevant to where.
Yeah, I mean,
comes
you're,
from.
you're depending on what it was, you're talking about upwards of 20% of his body weight that he lost and blunt teeth. That's
Yeah. Well, let's say he didn't ever. Maybe he was always that size, but 500 pounds.
That's a bit-
And I don't know what she's 100 pounds
Yeah.
or
yeah, she ain't much.
know.
Yeah, she's small.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have that. So I love the fact that we're hunting, but and again, I know this is not the same too, but you have dogs. we're about to talk about like different, I guess you would classify it as a subspecies of dogs. Like what do you have canines, and then you have a lab, and you have a hound dog, whatever. What do you, are those subspecies? Is that how you classify that in
you have
canines?
you have the domestic dog.
And that's what I'm referring
That's
to.
all the breeds. And
Yeah.
then, of course, you have, wolves, coyotes, and things like that. They're all canines.
Yeah, but in the domestics, it goes by different. I know it's breeds.
They
but
have their different breeds, but they're probably just classified as domestics. I'm not up on all my dogs.
My point is this, because it's gonna sound wrong. I'm not gonna sound intelligent when I say this because I'm not. But you have dogs, okay? A bulldog that you go and latches on to that big 400-something pound hog's ear to be able to catch him. He's going to be a lot more aggressive. Not saying all of them are, but he's going to be a lot more aggressive naturally than what that beautiful black lab you have with those pintails around that tree.
Yeah.
That lab's not going to latch onto that hog's ear. He's not going to go and bite and try to kill something and hunt something down like the bulldog will. You get what I'm saying? They're both a dog.
He wants Sonic ice cream. That's what he wants.
Yeah, they're both a dog. He's not going to go out his way and do that, but we've all heard of the lab that's went and that's bit somebody. So they all have it in them.
Right.
This black bear, the bears that we have around here, they're not aggressive like the grizzlies are, and they're not out. Not saying the grizzlies are hunting for you, but there's far more grizzly attacks than there are black bear attacks. But what I guess why is there's multiple questions, but like why do you think that is? First of all,
Well, I would look up, and you may find that they're more similar than you think as far as numbers of attacking. And black bears may actually outnumber. I don't know the statistics, but I will say this, that black bears, you do different things. You've always heard, you get attacked by a bear, you play dead. That's true with a grizzly bear. That is not true with a black bear. Black bear will eat you if you play dead. So, so you fight back. I've got a PowerPoint where it's got, if you play dead with a grizzly bear, you stand up, make yourself big, and you holler and hoop, and you fight back. Because I don't know how much this bear weighed, but let's say it's 150 pounds. You weigh more than 150 pounds. You can hurt that bear if it gets on you. Now, why would that bear get on you? Well, that bear was old. He didn't get on her to eat her. He got on her because she startled him, and it was just a reaction. But when he got caught in whatever livestock barn that was, he was trying to eat something that was easy to catch because he was old and his teeth were rotten, or he didn't have much teeth, and he didn't have the ability to do things that he did when he was 10, 12, or 14 years old.
right?
And, sadly enough for all animals, all mammals at least, their teeth are going to wear out, and they don't go to the dentist, and they don't get ditchers, and they don't get to go to the doctor, and they don't get to go buy Jell-O or soft food. They got to eat pecans and acorns and sometimes catch and kill stuff. And if you can't eat because you don't have any teeth,
You're going to starve.
you're going to starve to death, and that's a terrible death. So when they kill a big old mature bear in our hunt, and he had bad teeth, really that was a great way for him to
That's
go
a
out.
win.
Yeah.
That's a great way for him to go out. He got used and honored, and he didn't suffer.
Yeah.
He didn't waste away, or she. So that's a great way. Now, doesn't mean you have to kill the biggest, oldest bear in the woods or the biggest, oldest deer. You hunt, and if I only need this size bear for this much meat for my family, I don't need a 400-pound bear. That's up to you. It's your hunt. You go do what you need to do within our parameters. We're going to give you the rules and regs, and then you operate the way you need to. And if you don't see the bear that you want to harvest, and you got to hunt a bear,
Right.
So
Yeah, so we all, everyone, not just us three, but everyone, whether you love the thought of having black bears in Louisiana and hunting them is a great thing, and you wish we had 100,000 tags that everybody got to go hunt, or quota type thing, which is not going to happen. But just say you love them or you hate them. Everybody has their opinion on it.
Hey, look, and it's a hate to throw this out there, but eventually it's going to wind up being a great monetary resource.
It is now. You got to think it was what, 50, I think just say roughly $50, $55 to enter, and then you had to buy the bear license.
So it was $50 to enter the lottery, and it was a $25 bear license.
Okay.
And some, like the WMA and I believe the general lottery, you had to buy the license. If it was just a landowner, you didn't have to buy the license till you were successful, because the landowner tag was transferable. So if you're a landowner in that bear area and you had 40 acres or more, or you were a landowner's designee or leasee. So Richard owns the land. I lease it from him. You're his brother-in-law. He lets you own it. You're his designee. I'm his leasee. He's a landowner. We could all three put in if he had at least 40 acres for each of us. So he had 1,000 acres. We all put in. Well, you won. You could transfer that tag one time to somebody because it was, as the landowner, their leasee, or their designee. Now, if you, hey, I wanted to hunt bear, but my Army buddy's son has always wanted to hunt bear, and he doesn't live in the Bay Area, and I'm going to give him the tag. Or they bring me duck hunting every year, or we fish together, and they've done so much for me. I'm going to give them the bear tag. You could do that. And there was a 490-pound bear killed by a 13-year-old boy, and it was his first day, and I believe it was the second bear killed. Really old bear, tremendous animal. Had bad teeth, really bad teeth. One of his canines was broken, just hanging by the skin, and he was a big bear, but he lost a lot of muscle tone. He was an older animal. That bear, was killed. He killed that bear, and that tag had been transferred to him by a non-resident landowner. So a non-resident landowner could enter, but they couldn't hunt. They had to transfer the tag. But he had entered, the non-resident landowner had entered to gain preference points for the future, and he won, and he transferred the tag. And 13-year-old kid killed a bear that he'd grown up hunting around, and deer hunting on that property and seeing bears, and just a great animal, and there's a lot of food and a lot of fat on that bear, so you got to utilize it.
While we're talking about that, you've got a list of and some people know, some people don't, but you've got a list of the bear weights and all that from the bears that were taken. If you don't mind,
let you know.
Go through that, because I don't know either.
This is in order from the start of the season to the end. So in order they were harvested. So the first bear was a 308-pound female that was an older female that had not nursed in a while. Maybe couldn't have cubs anymore, but certainly was a legal bear, did not have cubs, this year for sure. The second was a 490-pound bear that we'd handled before. We know he's at least 18. He's probably older, maybe 18 to 22 years old. The third bear was a 390-pound bear. That bear was actually missing part of his front left leg. He would have been over 400 pounds if he'd have had that. Now, you wouldn't have known it the way he acted and the way he walked, but when you got to him, he had maybe been hit by a car or shot or something earlier in life. Great big male. Then there was a 366-pound male, and then a 206-pound male that was killed with archery, and a 515-pound male was a big, tremendous animal. And then just the next day, a 696-pound male, which is the biggest bear I've ever put my hands on. But they do have, I think Florida maybe had one that was close to 760 one year. I don't know if I'm not saying it was harvested, but maybe they handled it. I don't know. But I know that, but North Carolina, they kill some 700-pound bears there too. So certainly there are great big bears in the country. So 696, and then a 382-pound male. That bear there was killed near the Teddy Roosevelt camp, and so was the 490-pound bear that we talked about that the 13-year-old boy killed right where Teddy Roosevelt camped in his 1907 hunt. So maybe even right where he killed the bear. We don't really know. So where was I? Was it 382-pound male, 252-pound female? That was an older female. I was waiting there, sitting in my truck, check bear hunters if they killed a bear that day, and the guy shot, and he called me, and I went over there, and the bear's laid out, and it was the last weekend, I believe it was the last Saturday, and he, a big, beautiful pelt, just good-looking bear, long hair, good body condition, and I got up to it, and I'll show you a picture of it, and there was a little scar on its head, like right there, just above the eye. And I got to looking and like, that looks like a bullet stuck in its head. And so did he shoot it with a handgun and finish it off? Because bears have dense bones, and it just didn't penetrate. It's like, Mr. Roy did. And he's, no, he looked close. There was no blood. It had healed over. So I'm going to show you this picture of this bear. And let's see. Just bear with me.
No, you're good.
Another pun.
You're full of them.
Yeah, the same one over and over. No, here we are. Bear.
So he shot in the head.
It's shot in the
and
head.
you're going to finish the story in a minute, but I'm just going to keep it going. Shot in the head.
Shot in
out
the
of a
head.
bullet.
If you see that little scar on its forehead.
Yes.
You see that? You see the little scar?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a zoomed in picture.
So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else, and you're not watching the
Holy
video,
cow.
this is he's showing me right now. Holy smokes!
So that's the base of the bullet that is stuck in that bear's skull. Now there's no blood; it is healed over. Whether that happened a year ago or 2 years ago, I do not know. But that bear shot in the head. We measured it. I believe it to be a 30 caliber bullet. I don't know, if it came out of a 30-30 or a 308 or 3
Yeah,
Win Mag.
that's not a 9mm.
That's
bullet.
not a 9mm bullet. No. Now we could probably get it a little more precise, but either way, it's healed over. And that bear, when I touched its head, it's like you had broken a dinner plate. It was 3 big fractures in it, and you could hear it. So we skint that. They skint their bear and got the meat, and it was in great body condition, but it had not nursed in quite some time, and probably because it had been severely injured. And whether that was a year old or 2 years old, that bear probably spent that much of its time just getting back in shape. And it was an older female. And but when they skint the bear, they skint the skull out, and the back of the bear's head was concave. And if a bear's eating things like pecans in the shell and you have to chew to crunch that, well, that bear was probably having a really tough time in life. And it was probably in chronic pain, and it was an older bear. And, it was a great bear to harvest because it was a beautiful bear with great meat, but also it was having a tough time in life.
Yeah. So again, just in case you're listening to this, please go check out YouTube and look at the time of where you're at now, and go look at the YouTube video and check this out. But I'm gonna get you to text me that picture. I'm gonna put this up. But I'm looking at his phone. It's a Black Bear Big Sal, and that is absolutely bigger. I hunt a lot with a 6.5 PRC, and this is much bigger than a 6.5mm bullet. But you're talking about 30 caliber. Anyhow, the point is that's a big old skull that was broken into 3 pieces, and you have half. Just let's call it a 30-30. I don't know. Whatever it is. It's a 30 caliber rifle bullet, is what it appears to be. Did he leave it in the skull? By the way?
He still has it.
He still, yeah.
Now, when we skint the bear, there was a hole that was about an inch deep into the skull. But the hide had grown over on between the skull and the bullet.
Right. But it's essentially imagine a rifle bullet that's just, say it's 30 caliber, say it's roughly an inch long, 3/4 of an inch long. Dude, this thing right here, there's every bit of a quarter, maybe at least a half, maybe even a half an inch, quarter, half an inch of bullet.
Long, and it sits down into the neck of that casing.
Yeah.
So some of them have some length.
But there's a quarter. It's hard to tell from this, but I'm zooming in. Maybe a quarter up to half an inch of this projectile, this bullet stuck out of that.
Whether it came out of whatever kind of gun. It got hit in the head with it. And
a bear got shot in the head with a rifle of some kind, and only half the bullet is stuck in his skull.
I'm going to tell you.
That's wild.
If you're the one that did that, and you know that thing...
Oh, they're sweating bullets.
Only went halfway into that skull. Well, at least you know now.
Right. And
don't shoot him in the head.
Or they're sweating bullets like, man, don't do any DNA testing. Don't pull for fingerprints or
take
something.
it to the CSI.
That bear obviously probably hit the ground and maybe didn't get up for quite some time. Now, it's possible, because we have posters that say, know your target, that they thought they were shooting a hog.
Yeah.
And maybe never even walked out there to it. That doesn't make it right.
Right.
You're supposed to know your target. However, that's just the resiliencies of these animals, and we sometimes have to put animals down that are, maybe they're in really poor shape, and we catch them, but usually there's some sort of nuisance. They're a nuisance this time of year when they shouldn't be, or they're breaking into camps or dwellings. And a lot of times when we find those animals, there's something wrong with them. We had one just recently that had been shot through the front shoulder, really the front leg. It was just above the elbow. and it had a severe infection. And while it was a great big bear, it did not weigh what it was supposed to. It was probably a 300-pound bear, but should have been closer to 450 at that time of year. And he was just getting anything he could to eat, but he couldn't get around good, and he had a infection, and somebody shot that bear. There was a bullet hole through it, and I'm sure they shot that bear and said, "He's not my problem anymore." But you know what? He was somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And
just transferring that over.
We don't want anybody to have any trouble with any bear, but we certainly don't want people wounding bears and making problem bears for others just because he tore up your deer feeder. But that animal doesn't deserve to suffer, and you don't have the right to make it a problem for somebody else.
No.
And an injured, wounded animal that can't get what it's eat, that's your problem animal.
That's not good.
Amber's bear that had no teeth, that's your problem animal.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of bear incidences happened in places like Florida with people with dogs, and I don't know how familiar you are with Florida, but Florida has about 22.5 million people, and they probably have about 4,000 bears, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So at least twice what we have, maybe more. We have about 4.5 million people, so way less people. So they have a lot of people in close to a lot of bears. They have a lot of bear conflict, and they've had some incidents where people have been, interacted with bears, whether you want to call it an attack or an incident. Some of them are as simple as they knocked them over and they fell and hurt themselves. Other ones were pretty bad. And a lot of times it involves a lady with her dog. And most of the time bears are afraid of dogs. We used to have bear dogs in the state, and we'd run them, but problem bears, but it's very expensive, and we didn't have enough of that to justify doing that. But a female with cubs, she is not afraid of the dog. She is afraid for her cubs. So you have these ladies with their dog walking them in this neighborhood where the houses are so close that you can't put a bear trap between them, and behind it, it's national forest.
Yeah.
And she's walking her dog like she does every day, not doing anything wrong. Out comes a female with cubs from here to the door, and the dog roar, 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 roar at the cubs. Well, here comes the bear after the dog. And bears have what we call displaced aggression, which means I'm after you, but you ran away, and Richard is still here, so he's going to get it.
That's why they say you don't have to be able to outrun a bear. You just got to be able to outrun your friend.
Whoever it is you're with, that's exactly.
So a lot of times they're after the dog, but the dog got away, and they take the lady off of her feet, or they bite her on the leg, or they pull her down. And sometimes it's not just a scratch or a bruise. Sometimes it's severe, but it's cubs and mamas and people and dogs mixed together too close. That dog's not there, it probably didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, it's we get in dens with bears and knock them out and change collars, and they have cubs. This is that thing you used to see on TV. Don't do this at home. Yeah. Nobody should ever do that. It's very dangerous. We have to do it for our job and to get the stuff that we do, the information that we have. But you should always be cautious with any kind of bear, whether it's a black bear, grizzly bear. When we talked about earlier, you don't play dead with a black bear. You fight back. You use your bear spray. Bears can see, but not like a turkey or a deer. If me and Richard stand together, we look like one big thing. If we hold our hands up above our head, especially if we have our jacket up over our head, we look like one big, giant, tall thing. Well, I'm not messing with that.
Yeah.
And you holler at it and you let it know, hey, I'm here, well, he smells like a hamburger, but boy, he sounds bad, So, when you are approached by a black bear, you see a black bear, make yourself big. If there's 2 or 3 of you, stand together, holler, talk, be loud. Do not throw food at them.
Yeah.
If you got bear spray, get it out and get ready. Do not run. I don't know if you remember when you rode a bicycle as a little kid and the dog chased you, and the faster you pedaled, the more the dog chased you.
That's right.
So if you run from a black bear, he's going to catch you. Black bears can run about 35 miles an hour. Usain Bolt, I believe, is 27 miles per hour. So he can catch Usain.
You ain't running that fast with waders or knee boots on.
You're not going to outclimb him.
If you're Mr. Bolt with the world record holder, Olympic medal winner, you're not outrunning a black bear. Do not run.
Yeah.
Back away. Keep your eyes on him. Maybe, even, hey, just let him, once he sees you and hears you, a lot of times they go on anyway, or you're going on about their business. But you have to remember, nothing in the woods gets them other than 18-wheelers on the highway, or now us.
Yeah.
But if you do spray a bear, or we allow people to shoot bears with rubber buckshot in the rear end if they're having a problem bear in their yard or something, it's just getting a little too close to the house, and let them know you did it. Hey, bang, shoot, bang, bear. They associate. If every time I go to Richard's house, he shoots me with a slingshot and hollers at me, I'm not going to Richard's house anymore.
But maybe we don't have enough of that, the loud hollering, and we see a brown bear and we're kind of curious too. So let's watch. Let's see what he does.
If we see a what?
A bear.
Oh,
What did I say?
You said a brown bear.
I was wondering where you were going. You meant a black bear.
Look,
You need them
we're
duck
gonna be
around.
pretty quiet around a brown bear too.
Yeah.
But a bear in general. So they don't see us as a threat, maybe.
No, what they see you as is something that smells like something to eat.
Yeah, I get that. We haven't hunted them enough for them to know. Hey, Bob was out there the other day eating out of this corn pile, and he got shot. I don't know if I want to ease up there that corn pile. Surely they've got some kind of, I'm not saying they have reasoning skills, but they can probably figure out what's.
Probably a little smarter than you think.
Yeah, they're a smart animal, and they can figure things out. And certainly that's why if you do spray a bear or you do shoot a bear with rubber buckshot, let them know you did it, not just I walked up to this tree and started climbing a ladder and something stung me.
Yeah.
Let them know you did it and that you're up there in that tree and that tree belongs to you. Yeah. That you're as bad as they are, or maybe even a little badder.
Well, we just they just don't know to fear us. It's not their fault, our fault. It's just, we're going to have to learn how to cohabitate with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, a lot of it's going to be lack of education. That's what I figured out from this. Like me saying, something about having black bears where I hunt. Mm-hmm. And it just, I'm having to completely I didn't even hunt there this year.
Right.
Didn't even hunt there. But just because you can't put feed out and everybody else feeds around you, I can't put feed out, because if I put feed out, guess what? The bears are coming in.
Right.
And so I just went and left that alone. My view on bears from an hour and a half ago, hour and 45 minutes ago, they look a little bit different. They look different now than they did an hour and a half.
Now you want to take up for them now. I mean, if you didn't, if you didn't before.
Yeah, it really does. It completely changed your thing. So that's one reason I was excited about this podcast. Is this is the first good piece, and you are representing Louisiana well by the information you're giving, and hopefully us two buffoons ain't messing it up too bad. But we just wanted to have a good avenue and a good place for you to be able to talk and educate us and all the listeners about black bears, because I'm telling you, it's a lot different than what we thought coming into this. But what do you see the benefit of having them around? Like ultimately it'll get, because they're such a large animal, and be able to get the fat and the meat and everything else. And that's why we deer hunt. We kill a deer, pull the back straps off, and get hamburgers and some of that sausage made out of them. But bear, other than food, what's some benefits you see?
So the bear is an umbrella species. And an umbrella species, if this place is good for me, it's good for all this stuff under me. Turkeys, deer, squirrels, maybe even quail in some places. But other things that we don't think about, neotropical migrant birds, hummingbirds, salamanders, lizards, frogs, things that we don't hunt that are our wildlife and we're responsible for, and we're supposed to be good stewards. We sell a lot of hunting license, and we manage deer herds and bears and make regulations to hunt ducks, but there's people working LDWF that deal with turtles and snails and snakes and bats, and that's all part of the ecosystem.
Yep.
And if you don't think it is, remove it and see what happens. You have to look it up, but bats eat some inordinate amount of insects and probably save crops. Without bats, farming's not going to be what it is. They also pollinate things. It's not a hunted animal. Doesn't need to be, but it's an important animal. But they have problems too, and they have diseases. So we're in all this together, and it's kind of, maybe it's a little bit like the university's got the big football team. They make a lot of money, so you got a tennis team and some other team or a croquet team, because but that bear's an umbrella species.
An umbrella. And
that bear is if he's there and it's good for him, it's good for all these other things underneath him. So they're something that's been around, as long as we've been around, and they were hunted and near extirpation or near extinction or whatever you want to say. But and of course a ton of their habitat was destroyed, and that was probably is more detrimental, or at least as much as overhunting. But that the same thing was done with ducks and turkey and deer, and my grandpa lived to be 90 and a half, and I hunted with him, and he fought in World War II, and he shot ducks and squirrels, but he never saw a deer when he was young.
Yeah.
And they had quail everywhere, but of course every farm was 20 acres and not 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a different time, different place. Well, we had all this stuff that we get to participate in and talk about. I mean, my job is to deal with animals and educate people on them, and we're trying to do animal management, bear management, deer management, but a lot of times it's people management, and it's you got to mix the two together. And if you can't communicate, I can't communicate what I need to you for you to understand why this animal is useful or that it deserves to live, then I'm doing you and him a disservice. But we're here. I think how blessed we are talking about bears and deer and turkeys, and that's what we're doing for a living. We're not digging ditches.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could be. I used to work at a grocery store, clean the bathroom every night. After so many years, I was like, man, I got to go to college. And I did better in college probably because I did that. And there's people that need to do that. And it's an unglorious job, but it's an important job. And, whether you like bears or not, you need somebody here to manage them, and you need somebody here to listen to you. And well, I see your problem. Maybe there's something I can help you with. Bears are afraid of electricity. A little bit of electric fence will keep a bear out about just about anything. Bears don't jump fences like bears. They go through them, under them, around them. You can put electric fence around something like a beehive, and the bear's not after honey. Everybody thinks that they're after the larva bees, the high protein in there, and they do a tremendous amount of damage. And I realize it may take thousands of dollars to put a proper electric fence around a lot of beehives. But if you've got thousands of dollars in your beehives, it's going to save you money in the long run.
Well, it's the same thing on the diesel tanks on a farm, or, the young up and coming farmer, he's not opposed to doing something like that. The older farmer that's done it, not that he would be opposed to it at all, but it's just not a practice he grew up doing. And now, the young, upcoming, if I don't want a bear chewing up my diesel hose or whatever they might chew on,
they'll come down to Spot a Dog and get that new bear prevention kit. A little bit of hot wire, a little bit of.
Do you carry?
I thought you were talking about a silencer or something with a.
Do you carry bear spray?
Yeah.
We got bear spray.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't. But those new electric fence kits, the bear prevention kits, like I'm talking about, that we will be selling soon. We don't have yet, but we gotta talk about.
Do they
that.
make it?
I don't know. Spotted Dog's about to though.
Y'all would make it, but they certainly have solar powered bear or solar powered electric fences.
Yeah.
Now, I have some Bearwise stuff. Bearwise is a bearwise.org is a bear website, and I think there's 39 states in the country that are in it, and we all share the same information. So you get the same information from Tennessee as you do Louisiana, as Maine, Florida, North Carolina. And it's what to do about bears, or I have this bear problem. I want to build an electric fence. There's a handout on it. I've got one at home, or at the office or at home I can give to you. You can probably get all the Bearwise site. It tells you how many ohms and how many joules and what you need to do and how big it needs to be. And if you're in this kind of soil, how to ground it, not just you need to build an electric fence.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it right, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you do it right and you maintain it, it's going to save you money in the long run. If you've got 20,000 widgets you've got to protect from a bear, and it costs you $5,000 to put up the electric fence, and it keeps them safe for 10 years, you have made money.
Yeah. You saved it for sure.
Yeah.
It's been. So did you find, we're getting ready to wrap this up. I know you got to go. Thank you for coming on. This has been awesome. I think everybody would agree with that. But did you find the 2024, the first Louisiana bear season, did you find it successful?
So it was a success that we had a season. We had a species delisted, and we had a season on them, whether we killed a bear or not. Yeah. We had a success because we had a season. Now, the real success, and I wish I had my hunters here for you to talk to about what they learned, about how things changed their mind, how much I have friends in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I told them this at the beginning of their class, and they might agree with me now, but they certainly didn't there. I told our bear hunters, I have friends in Minnesota and Wisconsin that put a bear in the freezer before they do a deer. That's how good it is. Now, bear can carry trichinosis like pork, so you don't eat it rare.
Yeah.
You cook it done. And, whether that's 165 degrees for whatever minutes, you need to look that up before you cook it. Be aware of that. But it's really good. And those guys maybe didn't think that at the beginning, but now, they have a different view on bears. Just like you said, after an hour of talking, I'm not asking you to love bears. I'm asking you to tolerate bears.
Yeah.
And there's certain things we can do to help you with that, but we're not going to not have bears.
Right.
We are going to have bears. And just like the other 39 states or 38 states that have them, you're not the only one. But when you think about it and you think I've got a bear problem, well, there's usually some way to mitigate it. And certain things you could do different. It may cost you a little money on the front end, but you'll benefit from it later. But there's probably 30 other states with people in them that are dealing with more bears and have been dealing with it longer than you have. So you're not the only person in the world.
No, we're not. Well, we've tolerated hogs for I can't tell you how long. And
but the fun thing about a hog, that's another target.
It is, but I'm saying we've tolerated, and although a lot of people very much dislike hogs, we tolerate it. We do the traps. You go and you spend the money on all that stuff. Like you said, whether you love or hate bears, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
If you have them now, you're going to continue to have them and probably get a little bit more. So until you're the lucky one, your name gets drawn and you get to go harvest one and learn more about it. You're just gonna just learn to live with them.
Yeah.
And y'all are working on other. I know there's things in the pipeline that, but eventually there'll be more stuff. For us to do with the bear.
Well, you are limited to what you can do because it was a threatened species, and we can't just go out there and say, well, that bear ate my corn feeder, we're going to kill it.
Right.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
You chose to put the corn feeder there. You don't have to do that. Well, I can't deer hunt there. Well, you didn't deer hunt there this year. Yeah. But do you have to have corn to kill a deer?
No,
you don't. Mm-mm. There's states where it's against the law. We have a CWD zone where you cannot bait, and then we had bear season in it. Now, we allowed baiting for bears because we wanted our hunters to look at the bears. We wanted them to hunt bears. We wanted them to be patient and wait. Was that a female that was all by herself, or was there two cubs that were 15 minutes behind? And so we allowed them to bait to study the bear. Well, you could not bait in the CWD zone with anything a deer would eat, but you could use things that a bear might eat, like donuts or something like that.
And nasty honey bun.
Dog food, something like that. And now we have a limited time that you can bait bears because we don't want them to be habituated to it or something like that. But also, we wanted you to have a good, clean, ethical shot and not just, well, I better shoot or it's going to be gone or I'm not sure what that is. You had all the time in the world. You got to look at different bears. You got to learn about them. It was as much about educating as, the harvest was the very end of it. The hunt was what it was about, and learning about them and maybe a new appreciation for them.
Yeah. So something everybody's going to know. We'll wrap it up with this. Y'all haven't gotten all your studies back. You've already said that. You've gone into that some. But we had to start somewhere. As you said at the beginning, we had to start somewhere when it came to the number of tags for bears and how many people got drawn. So we got 10 or 11, but essentially 10 to the public. Is it looking like we're going to have a 2025 bear season? And is it looking like that there may be an increase? It may be the same, or is it something we ain't got enough study yet? The numbers back to be able to tell.
We're working on that now, and we'll have a 2025 bear season.
We will.
Now, what it'll be? Will it be just like this? Maybe, maybe not. We're working on that.
Yeah.
We put our heads together, and what do we want to do different? Where do we want to do it? But so I would expect a little more next year than what we had this year.
Yeah.
But we're gonna take this at a slow pace and make sure we do it right because we don't want to relist the bear.
Right.
You know, if the bear were to, if we do this wrong and the bear gets relisted, then you don't hunt him in your lifetime again.
Right. Yeah.
We owe it to the bear. And now, like we hardly had any, but we always had some.
Yeah.
And we used to have a whole bunch, hundreds of years ago. And we don't need a whole bunch, but we need some.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for that animal to be listed again. And there's no reason that we can't use the excess animals for enjoyment and for food and for what animal can you waterproof your boots with? I mean, there's so much use for that animal.
Yeah.
And, have them around and enjoy them and just seeing them, and how big they are and what they're capable of. But, we can hunt them and enjoy them and use them, but we're doing it to manage them, to maintain them, to grow them where we need to grow, to keep a healthy population. There may be places we don't want bears in and around Baton Rouge or New Orleans.
Right.
We don't want bears in Shreveport. Now, there's probably going to be a bear in St. Joe or Newellton or Waterproof just because it's in rural towns and they're small and a bear can walk across them in 5 minutes. But, you're going to have some mixing. There's not getting away from that, but we don't necessarily want them in big cities or big towns. And we don't promote bear populations around big cities and big towns.
Yeah. So if you're an advocate for bear hunting here in Louisiana, it looks like things are moving in the right direction, boys. It looks like.
Well, I think it'd be pretty neat to kill a bear, to take a bear off of your property.
Absolutely.
But before we go though, so we were young boys when they implemented the turkey restoration back in the day, and that was a success. How do y'all view the black bear restoration? How is your office viewing that?
So, deer were brought back, not just in Louisiana, but probably across the nation. Waterfowl was brought back. When I was a kid and I first started hunting, it was the point system, but I was so little and so unable to actually, successfully kill a duck. The points didn't matter because if I got lucky, I might kill one. And then it was 3 ducks, 30 days. And we've been in 6 and 60 for a while, and people can tell you that it was not a good season for them, or maybe it was a good season. And either way, we've moved forward with that. We moved forward with deer. We moved forward with turkeys. None of them were on the threatened and endangered species list, but the bear was here, and it's not anymore. And the alligator was here, but it's not anymore. So we have a surplus enough that we can hunt, not a surplus enough that everybody can hunt every day, but everybody can have a chance to maybe possibly hunt.
Right.
And this,
But there's a difference between a bear being on a list and it's just on a list because it's Louisiana. There's not a shortage
of black bears. Yeah, there's a shortage of Louisiana black bears.
There's a shortage of black bears there in the state of Louisiana. But there is not, really and truly, there's not a until he crosses that state line, there's not a
If he lives in Louisiana, he's considered a Louisiana subspecies.
That's right, yeah. So,
but, Mississippi has fewer bears than us, and Alabama probably has fewer bears than us, and Texas has fewer bears than us, but they have bears. And one day they're going to have more bears. And are they going to have a population like Minnesota or Pennsylvania or North Carolina where they have thousands of bears and kill, or need to harvest, 2 or 3 or 4,000 bears? Or are they going to be like us and have 1,500 to 2,000? And they just need to, there's a need for harvest, but not across the board. Everybody's going to, in every bear area is going to kill the same amount of bears. Probably not. So hopefully what we're doing here will help those states just like those other states helped us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are y'all in partnership? Let's talk about Mississippi just for a second. So they're our neighbor to the east. So have they communicated with y'all at all about?
Yeah. So I talked to their bear biologist. He talks to me, about what we're doing, why we're doing, or, hey, have you had a problem doing this? Or I found this. Also, professors at Mississippi State, professors in Tennessee, Dr. Joe Clark, Emily Puckett, at the University of Memphis. We're constantly, and they, invite them here. They come like Dr. Dana Moore at Mississippi State, she came over with us and the first day of bear season to pull samples with us.
Oh, wow.
She's from Maine, so she, knew about bears growing up. Emily Puckett, Memphis, she came down and collared bears with us. They may be helping us with genetics or population estimates or anything like that, but they get to see where they live, how they're thought of. They know what a palmetto thicket is now.
Mm-hmm.
They know what a 450-pound bear looks like. They know what he smells like, and they know what he feels like. So they have a little more connection to that. And we're going in April to the Eastern Black Bear, and this is going to be in New York. Well, there'll be people from half the United States there, other bear managers and students and professors, not just wildlife and fisheries from this state. There'll be federal people there. And we can all share this, and we'll talk about what we did here in Louisiana and why we did it that way and how can improve it, or maybe, tweak it to make it better, or we wish we would have done this a little different or done this sooner. We'll get all that. And we got all that before and that's what's so important about me, sharing this with y'all, is to know this. We just didn't say, I think it's time for a bear season, let's kill 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work and a lot of people.
And years of planning.
And years of planning, careers passed to get where we are. I'm the one talking about it. I'm not the one that did it.
Yeah.
So, it's all that work and it's still being done. We're not required by the Fish and Wildlife to do bear hair snares. We do it because we want to know what's happening with the bears. We're not required to collar bears and find out reproduction and recruitment. We still do it. We're still spending money and spending time on these animals, and we want people to know about them and why we're doing what we're doing and how we're doing it, how we come up with this. And it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. We're doing this science-based, not by, I got 10 bears on my farm. You got 13, you got 23. All right, well, we got 50 bears maybe. Let's kill half of them.
Let's kill 10, 15, 20 of them. Yeah.
Well, look, I think they're neat. They have a place where we're plenty rural enough to where we can handle it. And they'll spread out some too, and maybe they won't be so congested just all in one spot. Of course, I guess the habitat.
Yeah, I mean, the bear hunt took place in Bear Area 4, and it was Madison, Tensas, East Carroll, West Carroll, half of Franklin, half of Richland, and the very tip of Catahoula. So it wasn't just Tensas and Madison.
Well, sure.
But you did have to draw a tag. That was a lottery, and it was not necessarily easy to do, but everything that was spent on that, other than for service fees that, you're using internet and it costs, if you buy your license online, you pay a service fee. Well, we don't get that, but all that other money came right back to Bear. Mm-hmm. And that's the money we use to do our studies and stuff. But it costs money to do that thing. It costs money to run a hair snare. But if I don't have any data, how do I make decisions? I need to make informed decisions that benefits the outdoor enthusiasts of this state and the citizens of this state, as well as the bear. So, we're taking everybody into consideration. But what I find is when I do that, nobody's happy.
Yeah. Well, and like nobody. I said, I think if you just go back, I'm not saying there's been a lack of communication. No, I'm sorry. Well, communication too. I don't think there's been a lack of communication because y'all put out a decent bit of content when it comes to black bears, especially here recently since it's such a hot topic, but a lack of education. Mm-hmm. Not saying that y'all are not putting out the education.
It's just getting the people to hear it or see it.
It's getting the people to listen to it. It's getting the quality content in the right form out, because you go and you post something that looks like that out there, y'all do that 100 times, you're not getting the right people to look at it, or you're not getting very many people to go look at it and study that. But you come in here, that's why it was so important to me, because I'm a nobody. I'm just a Joe Blow dude that came here to listen about bear stuff, and I know everybody else will too. And so that's why it's so important for you to come here.
Well, I'm glad y'all had me, and I would certainly come back. If you wanted to talk about this further, and of course we have experts with deer and turkeys and hummingbirds and all that other stuff that anybody would be happy to talk to you about this kind of stuff. you try to you do the best you can to well, what do you think, and what do you think, and to take everybody into consideration. And a lot of times it ends up very few people or nobody's happy because, well, I wanted to hunt the bear at this time. I don't want to hunt the bear at all. I wanted to hunt this many bears. You didn't hunt the bear where I have it. I can't do it all at once. Let me open the door and see what's on the other side, and let's see what we can do, and let's do it the right way, and let's utilize the bear, but also let the bear flourish where it can and needs to.
Well, I would love to hunt black bears at the end of October. What did you call it?
Hyperphagia.
I would love to hunt black bears then because it's going to be. We're going to go to supper here in a minute, and I'm going to be using. Can I get an order of hyperphagia? But I would love to hunt them then. But it didn't take you but a matter of a few seconds to change my mind on that in a very good manner. So.
Well, one more thing I'll say about that, and I meant to say it earlier, is they're all ganged up there, and there's a lot of bears. Well, if you own their property or have access to that property, we have a lot of opportunity. But there's a lot of properties around there where they're devoid of bears now because they've all come to this. While we're hunting them in mid-December, they're more evenly spread out.
Yeah.
But they're not in hyperphagia anymore. They're probably eating 3,000 to 5,000 calories a day. Not anymore 72 quarter pounders with cheese, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, but it's fair because they're more dispersed across the landscape, and everybody in that area has a chance of encountering a bear versus this one place has got a super high concentration of bears at this time, and they're not paying anybody any attention, and we don't know who belongs to who. That's not fair to the bears.
Yeah. Well, we've been rolling 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that's nonstop. This is going to be a 2-hour episode. I'll look at our retention rate on it, and I'm going to say that we'll have in the upper 90s of people that list, like 90% of what people listened all the way through this thing. It's very, very informative. And
I'm glad we did it after the fact. After y'all got some of this data, but what would be really neat 2 years from now, we do it again, or maybe even next year when some of this data that you've had come back.
We'd be happy to talk about it. Whatever we decide we're going to do, it has to go through our NOI and all, and that stuff will be out, probably midsummer. We can talk about before the bear. This is what we're doing this year and why.
Yeah.
And then we can, hey, this is what happened this year and why.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Good. That's awesome.
Mr. John,
we appreciate you coming, bro.
Dude, thank you for coming on. Yeah, all the wires. So thank you.
Much.
I appreciate it.
So I guess your next thing is, he's a turkey killer.
I'm a turkey hunter.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you,
we'll get a whole another one talking about that.
He'll be hard to handle here, pretty sure, to get a hold of. But
again, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. And like I said, we have experts on everything. Anybody would be able to. We're happy to talk to you about and share information on why we do things. And sometimes we make mistakes, or sometimes we don't do the things you like or your neighbor likes, but we're doing them for a reason, and I encourage people to contact us, and, you have regional offices, and we have commission meetings, the first Thursday of every month. Go to those, see how the process works. Your vote, matters. It may not change anything, but we want to hear from you.
Well, I got a 3-year-old little boy at the house, and there's a lot of decisions that I make that he does not like.
Right.
But I see the bigger picture, and I have the knowledge that he doesn't have, and I know it's for the greater good. And so it's so hard for us to see that as hunters, not really having any knowledge behind black bears. And we think that my decision and my opinion is what y'all need to take and put it on the stone. That ain't always the case. And so
we sometimes, we do something and like, well, we wish we'd have done it this way or at this time.
Yeah.
But you learn from your mistakes and you move on. And sometimes it's not a mistake. It's just, well, is this better? Is this better? Well, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah. Well, we're so new into all this.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about the first bear season in my lifetime and our lifetimes. So we got many more to come. We're going to have you back on many more times and your friends. I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you got across what you wanted to get across in manners that you did. And I hope everyone took it well and learned a lot from this. And that's what this is. We tell a lot of stories and joke and shoot the bull and that kind of stuff. But being informative is something.
I mean, we got educated tonight.
We did.
And I sure hope a lot of folks.
Is there anything else y'all want to ask?
We're going to save it till the next podcast. That way I can secure to get you on. So, all right. Shipping is free. if you order something through Spotted Dog Sporting Goods, if it's over how much, Richard?
$100.
It's actually, he lied. It's actually $99. You spend $99 or more at Spotted Dog Sporting Goods, and guess what?
We're going to change that. We need that dollar. Baby needs new shoes. We need that extra
We're
dollar.
donating that extra dollar to LDWF Black Bear Fund. So
that'd be great.
there's a lot of orders that come through there. But no, guys, thank you so much for listening. Shop online for all your hunting and fishing needs. Turkey season's right around the corner. Texas is about to be opening up. Florida, and we ain't got long. And so anyhow, I'm looking forward to it. But thank you guys for listening. John, thanks for coming on. Richard, baby.
You see, you did a good job.
Appreciate it. All right. Bye, guys. See you next time.